Dungeon Crawlers. Not radio. This is our special movie review. This is brand new. So this is awesome because, well, Star Wars has showed up. And we have to talk about it because I've been wanting to talk about this all day.
Yes.
I've been like, literally, like this.
Since we got out of the movie theater, it's just been like nonstop, like, who can we talk to about this? The internet has some people that's seen the movie. Maybe we should talk to the internet a little bit about it.
Yeah, and we're definitely putting up something that says spoiler alert.
Spoilers!
There are spoilers everywhere! So if you haven't seen the film, don't watch this.
Come
Go
back
see
later.
It. Yeah,
go to the movies, watch it, come back later.
Go see it.
So
yes.
I want to give like people like, what's their incentive of caring about our opinions about the film?
We are awesome.
You can go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just start.
Okay, well, we are Dungeon Crawlers. We are a nerd, a pop culture show.
Yes.
Weekly show. Me and Jess actually won the Star Wars Fan Film Awards at the most recent Star Wars celebration. So we know a thing or two about Star Wars, and we're going to talk a little bit about The Force Awakens and what made it absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, like, we're big geeks.
Yeah, we're huge geeks.
Look
Above all
of the Star Wars stuff.
This is just our normal house.
This is just a corner of our house.
Just normal stuff.
Normal
Makes
stuff.
Me jealous. How was it for you guys? I mean,
First impressions.
Yes,
first impressions.
Can I start?
We should go.
Yeah, go.
Okay,
ladies
so,
first.
It felt like you were going back home for the first time in 20 years. You didn't know anyone. You were looking for familiar faces to kind of draw you in, and like it was really cool. Like it was really cool seeing all these people because that's what you wanted. You wanted to see people from the original, and then you were introduced to all these new people, and you were a little scared and standoffish at first, but they were freaking awesome, and they totally pulled you in.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
Yeah, it was like meeting old friends, but at the same time,
Making new friends.
they weaved in
Meeting
the
their-
new friends
Yeah.
into the storyline so beautifully. It was like, it wasn't like this, like, boom, here's Jar Jar Binks.
Right.
You know, even BB-8 coming in was so subtle, and you're just like, I mean, you couldn't stop from falling in love with that droid. It was amazing. He was funny, he was adorable, and I mean, just seeing him from the trailer, and I'm like, dude, I'm an R2 fan. I love R2.
Right.
How can I
R2
love this droid?
loyalty.
This thing is a ball with a head on it. Nope. Totally. I love that character.
All the hype about him, I was kind of going in, especially you would talk about him, I'm going to fall in love with this droid, and I was kind of...
Yeah, I did.
It was cheesy and annoying, and I did not want to like this droid. But it took about 10 seconds, and I was like, on board.
Well, let's
Love it.
face it, we were all very skeptical going into this movie. We've all been burned once already.
No,
Like
I wasn't
the prequels.
skeptical about
and the
droid,
hype
but
was just unrealistically, like, explosively high.
that's what I mean. Like, it was scary. And
Yeah, it's how could you possibly like expect a movie to produce something like it's gonna be this life-changing event, which it ended up kind of being that.
It was. I mean, so this is kind of where we come in is we have like this high expectations because we've seen the trilogy, we've seen the prequels where we didn't feel at least for some of us we came in because we'd grown up with the trilogy. We came in and it was like this foreign thing. It wasn't the old friends, but now we come in with the old friends, and then they're adding all this other stuff and all this thing. And I mean, I have to give J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy and Disney and Lucasfilms so many props because there was hardly anything leaked out. I mean, it's like we had no clue going
even
into
the
this movie.
trailer was so deceptive.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see...
The marketing was fantastic.
Yeah.
The marketing was brilliant because when we went in, we didn't know anything.
You get Finn,
You
lightsaber.
We don't know who Finn is. We don't know who Rey is. We don't know who Kylo Ren is. We don't
It's
know
funny
what's going
because
on.
I went through and I was watching some of the content that people had been pushing out before the movie came out of their theories and what's going on. Everyone was dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
Dead
I don't know.
wrong.
I think we got some of our theories that we've talked about were pretty close. Not all of them, but we had some that were pretty close and pretty good.
I mean, the biggest spoiler of the movie was Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Being Han Solo's son.
Yes.
And I thought he was Han Solo's son.
Yeah.
But I thought that maybe it was possible that Rey was his twin.
Was the twin.
That's still possible.
It's still possible, but...
I have something against that. We'll get to
Well,
that.
Yeah,
we'll
get to the theories a little later.
But really
but no, I mean that wasn't so surprising to me when it said, when he's like, Han Solo is your father. Can you do this? I mean, I was kind of expecting something like that. I mean, we kind of all were, but we'll get to the other big thing that happened with Kylo and Han. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fun movie. It was fast paced. I mean, seriously, when it was over, I didn't. I had to look at my watch, looking, say, was that really 2 hours and 40 minutes? Because it didn't feel like that.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, what's kind of sad is the movie was so fun and it was so good. I loved all the new characters, but I felt like the entire time I was watching the film, I was holding the movie at arm's length.
Yeah.
I really was. And it took until after the movie was over and I had a second to digest everything that I was like, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we were doing that because we're all expecting the prequel stuff to happen because
We've been hurt.
We've been hurt. I mean, honestly, Phantom Menace, that came out and we were all excited. We wanted to see that. We went in and we came out like, what was that?
Well, and
and I know there are prequel fans out there, and that's awesome because that's what they grew up on.
I like the prequels.
Yeah, and I still like the prequels because they're part of Star Wars. But this is just awesome.
Yeah.
You got the original trilogy, the prequels. I would say, they're okay.
Right.
This just had that feel of the trilogy. It had that spirit, that vibe, and I know it's not part of it is canon, but it wasn't like all the books and stuff. I think it's just as good as the Thrawn trilogy or the Dark Empire or any
there
of those.
Was something to be said that it felt so old and so new at the same time. Like it really did.
I really haven't seen anything like it in my lifetime.
No.
Like it was so new and fresh, and it was a brand new experience cinematically. Not even if you push Star Wars out of it, if it was a completely different franchise.
Yeah,
it was such a fresh take on cinema.
I feel like the interaction between Rey and Finn is something. It was for me. It was genius because it's like going from Grandpa's music to your music. You know what I mean? Like the conversation was very modern. I felt like this is how people would talk to each other after 30 years. Because if you watch movies, back in the 70s, 60s, it's very, stilt. It's very, the conversation and everything. Then, you know what I mean? Like, and then you get to now, it felt so natural. It felt like something kids would actually say to each other that were that age. And it was quite enjoyable. I love the banter between the two of them.
If I had to sum up the whole movie in one word, it would be chemistry. I feel like
everywhere.
Every single character in every single situation, good, bad, evil, whatever, the chemistry was so solid.
Gosh. Yeah. The bromances were amazing, and we'll talk more about that later. But for me, even the chemistry between Kylo Ren and Rey when they were fighting each other was undeniable.
I just want to say Rey was a beautiful character. Amazing.
Oh man!
I mean, she's a great role model as a
love
character.
Princess Leia, but geez,
she outshone Leia, Padme. I mean,
everyone.
Almost any Star Wars character.
I think even any woman sci-fi character ever.
Even I'm going to throw in Hunger Games, but Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games is a really strong, powerful female character.
Not like this.
Rey puts that to shame. I mean, she's soft, she's tender, she's strong. I mean, just the evolution you see from the beginning to the end of the story, just from this point, and even at the end, you can still see that she's still open, and there's more that we can get from this character.
It's so amazing how they made you feel like she was so strong and so sensitive and delicate all at the same time.
I'm going to throw this in.
It's very hard to do that.
One of my favorite scenes with her is at the very beginning, where Finn's there, and he hears the interceptors or the TIE fighters coming in, and he grabs her hand, and she's like, "What are you doing? Why are you grabbing my hand?" Like, and he's just trying to be the good guy to save her, and she's just like, "Let go of my hand."
It broke the formulas of hero and damsel in distress.
I can run without you holding my hand.
I love that because we kind of had that damsel in distress with Leia and Luke and Han in that, and
Rey wasn't having it,
and she threw it out the window.
Can I just say though, the only thing that kind of wasn't surprising about it for me at all, which I hated, was that Disney is now starting to push the formula of women don't need a man. And so that for me, thinking back on Frozen and, that how big that was, how big Maleficent was, that, something else can be your true love. It doesn't have to be a man. I was kind of expecting it a little bit, but I don't think it could have been done better.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. Yeah. That woman is a woman. She is not a robot. She is not... I mean, she just... she had so many qualities that just brought her back to being human, and I think even men can relate to her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's definitely the best character development I've ever seen, ever, in any
Yeah.
character. Like, it's just watching her progression from where she started alone to where she ended up. This Jedi, like she's treading on the path to be probably the most powerful Jedi we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I want to start breaking the movie down a little
Okay,
bit.
let's do it. Bring it on.
First off, and it's hard to kind of take pieces out of this movie because
It
there's
is.
so
There's
many
so
different
Yeah.
parts of it that just stand out. I'm just going to start picking things off the list here.
Okay.
So first, I
We
want to
should leave
start
the
off.
biggest spoiler towards the end, though.
Yeah, I have it at the
He
top
has
of my
it
list.
first.
Yeah, it's on the
Because
top, but we're
that
gonna
was
leave
the
that on
hardest
the
thing
bottom.
for
Hold
me in
on
the
to your
world.
Just wait,
panties,
there's
guys.
some amazing things
There's-
coming.
So let's touch on a little bit about your thoughts on Kylo being Ben Solo. Like, this is one of the biggest things out of the film.
Well, the obvious is he doesn't look anything like either one of them.
Well,
mean,
okay,
let's be
so
honest.
You could stretch it.
Well,
if you
I know,
want.
I understand
mean,
what they're trying to
you
throw.
definitely can stretch it, and it's really hard to do that. But
I thought it was Ezra from Rebels.
it was really tough using the name Ben, at least for me, because Ben was Luke's son in the books.
Yeah,
And
I noticed that
and
too.
now they don't have 3 kids. They don't have Anakin and Jaina and Jason. It's just Ben.
Right. Well, as far as we know, we may meet a
but
new character in the next.
We
film,
might.
you know?
I mean, maybe they do have other kids. We
They
don't
have
know.
a daughter somewhere else
But-
on the planet.
I want to. The character really helped me appreciate Hayden Christensen's Anakin more. I mean,
No.
I know. No, okay. Now let me explain.
What?
Let me explain.
Okay.
Okay, so we did see a whiny Hayden Christensen as Anakin.
Yes.
And now we see Kylo Ren as this whiny, spoiled brat that has all this power, and you see him throwing his temper tantrums.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of see
I
where
mean-
this idea of, because Anakin was this guy that was the savior. He was supposed to bring balance, and everyone told him this.
Whiny savior. Yeah.
I know. And so he kind of got this ego, this mentality, and now he is the son of this amazing person.
Right.
And he's not progressing fast enough, or maybe Luke was holding him back, or who knows. I mean, there's still some more story we can find out. But the temper tantrums that we saw from him, it
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
like...
It was scary.
I mean, they were... my favorite scene, literally, is when he's throwing that tantrum, and the stormtroopers are
That's
walking
hilarious.
in, and they see something fly out, and they just
Back
turn around
away.
and walk away. It was amazing. It was
It's not a
beautiful
good
in that
day.
part.
Go back,
but
guys.
because of that, it
Yeah.
made me kind of appreciate. So it maybe that wasn't intended, but now that whiny Anakin
Mm-hmm.
has now made it so this temper tantrum Kylo can exist.
Well, and
For me, without going, oh man, there's
Right.
So
the
back
same
up,
tunes
back
on it."
up just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to get kind of to the root
Sure.
of Kylo Ren as a character.
Yeah.
Where did he come from? We found out that Luke Skywalker actually implemented a new Jedi Academy of
Correct.
some
So
sort.
that was in the book. So we kind of got that, but in the flashbacks, I'm getting that something happened. We don't know exactly. I'm guessing it's Snoke that came in.
Snoke.
Snooky.
Darth Snooky.
Yeah.
There's
That's what we all gotta be
that
afraid
is
of.
Yeah.
terrifying.
But he somehow influenced Ben, and Ben betrayed everything. And then so Luke went into hiding. Han felt guilty,
Right.
ran away, and then we had the premise where we came in. As a character, I think it's because of that ego where he was easily swayed and why he was easy to
So
fall.
you think that's what went wrong? Is that he's just a very easily influenced person?
I think he was easily influenced. He was the son of these war heroes, the nephew of this famous Jedi that
Yeah.
took down the Empire,
so. He
the-
rebelled hard.
the
Well, I think
grandson
there's a
of Vader. I mean, there's
desperation.
he wanted to be someone amazing and
Yeah.
important,
Yep.
and he
That's
wa-
what I saw
and
last night. I agree.
think there was the struggle. He had that struggle inside himself. Even there's that scene where he's with the mask and he's saying, I'm struggling between the light and the dark, and help me, and I think that's what he's always struggled with.
Well, and I felt like, for me, like, I thought it was really cool because it's kind of the opposite of Anakin in a way, because Anakin was in the light and
Yes.
he struggled. He had the dark creeping in.
Yes.
And this is kind of the opposite. He's in the dark and he keeps having those flashes of light come in. Also, something for me, like you said, I want to touch on that more. He did have very famous grandparents, or grandfather, parents, and I feel like as a child, I mean, you see this in movie star kids all the time. They feel so overwhelmed by the image that their parents have that they rebel
Yeah.
to kind of break out and be their own person.
Yeah.
And I think what he's doing is he's putting so much pressure on himself to be great,
Yeah.
because he feels like he's going to constantly be in the shadow
Yeah.
of his family. And I mean, when it doesn't work
Technically,
out,
though,
I think
I mean-
he freaks out.
Yeah.
He's
Vader
like a
is family,
spoiled
though.
brat.
Like, Vader is his grandfather.
Well, you're
What
right.
made you? What do you think made him like clasp onto the idealism that he needs to be Darth Vader? He needs to idolize and become what Darth Vader was in his mind. Because
Well,
obviously he's not becoming what Darth Vader
You're right.
ultimately became.
And I think that's where.
Well, nobody knows what Darth Vader became
Snoke,
other than
right?
Luke. Nobody else was there.
Did I say it right? Snoke.
Snoke, yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm saying it right. I think that's where Snoke was manipulating him. That's where he's like, look at Vader. Look what your grandfather achieved.
Yeah.
Look at the path he went down.
That's a guy.
And I think we haven't seen that, and that may play into part of it.
As your Uncle Luke
Yeah,
hides. You know what I
your
mean?
un-
He hides
your
from the
uncle,
world.
your uncle is holding you back.
Right.
He truly could show you, these things. He was trained by Yoda, and he's not showing you those things.
Right.
Your father thinks that the Jedi stuff is hokey pokey magic mumbo jumbo, and then there's your mother, that and so I can see where that can be played on, where he's pushing himself so hard to be this amazing person because of his parentage and his family, and so that's where that Snoke is coming in and subtly
Planting
manipulating,
seeds.
just like Palpatine did with
Yeah.
Anakin.
Well, something you just said actually clicked for me. I just had an epiphany. I feel like when a kid is told so many times that there's something wrong with them,
Yeah.
they start to believe there is.
Yeah.
And when Leia and Han talk about they were scared
Mhm.
because of his tendencies, so they sent him away, that automatically told him that something was wrong with him.
Yeah.
And when a kid thinks they're different by so many people, they accept that and they become that person. And I feel like the worst thing that they did was sending him away
Oh, and part
and
of that,
making him feel like a pariah.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what
reflected
I mean?
in his dialogue quite
Yeah.
a bit through the film. He's constantly talking about Snoke can see that there's light in me, and I'm having problems. I'm being destroyed from the inside. Like
Yeah.
he's constantly expressing that he doesn't feel comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like that is a huge influence on what he ultimately becomes. Now, answer a question for me in a specific scene that I had. Explain to me exactly what the events were in the vision that Rey had when she grabbed the lightsaber of Luke Skywalker for the first time, because that ties into what we're talking
We all
about
saw
Kylo
different
quite a
there
bit.
were
It
there
was
was
quite
so
fast.
many things that were
Yeah.
thrown in there.
Did you see Kylo Ren in the vision?
I did. Yeah, there was.
As a little girl, did you see him?
No,
when he
the
was
little girl was Rey.
That was Rey.
Right, but
So-
who was standing next to her?
That was the junk
The
guy.
junk guy.
at
The junk
beginning.
guy.
So
Okay.
there were. I mean, there were so many things thrown in there, and I caught on several things. I mean, she did see a vision where Kylo was slaughtering the other younglings or Jedi that were training under Luke. She saw him when he was with the other Knights of Ren, which we saw in the trailer that had Mandos and that. And you saw a bunch of dead bodies around. You did see her with the junk guy on a ship flying off. There was so much in there that it was hard to catch
Right.
everything.
My
But I
interpretation.
think,
Go ahead.
I mean, at least from that, I have some really good ideas from what I've seen in there. But first off, why is this lightsaber calling to her?
Right.
Yeah,
I really think due to the events in the vision is that she's a Skywalker, and I know it's kind of a cop out theory. You know,
well, see, this is the thing: is Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams and everyone has said the movies are the Skywalker line.
Okay.
There is she. The only thing I can think of why she saw Kylo slaughtering the other Jedis is because at that moment she connected to her father. Luke is her father. It's a flip. He had a son, but now he has a daughter. It would also explain why she's so strong in the Force, untrained. She was able to do the things she was able to do, and she saw everything she saw. And the
Visually-
ship flying off was Luke. He fled and left her there.
That's exactly what I was thinking too, because visually, like the events in which the storytelling was placed through that vision, kind of told me chronologically that okay, so Jedi die, then we see Luke with R2-D2 mourning,
Yep.
and then she's left on
Yeah.
the planet. That to me tells me that okay, so it makes sense that after this happened, he left her. So
And
that
that's
he
another
could-
thing is that could have been a repressed memory that suddenly came back to her. She actually saw her father touching her too.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't R2?
Well, and that brings up
acknowledge
another
her?
theory at the end. with
Well, I mean,
R2.
I think it's all more visual storytelling in that
Yeah.
aspect,
Yeah.
but it does tell. I
See,
mean,
like the Star Wars spirit. I mean, there's a lot of times that he's involved that you feel like you
Well,
go
see-
back and you see things. You're like, why didn't
See,
he
and that's
know?
one thing that
And why
really
didn't-
struck
you know what I
me
mean?
with this movie. You didn't see R2. Really did
At all.
not see R2. And I know they were trying to really establish BB-8,
Mm-hmm.
But you hardly saw R2.
I
What
think
they
he'll have a
did
bigger
with the
role.
droids, what they
Yeah.
did with the other cast.
Yeah.
They kind of, here it is, but here's
Well, I mean,
this.
even 3PO didn't have a
Enjoy that.
big part either. It was just kind of,
Whiny.
he came in, did this weird little dialogue with Han Solo, and then he
Right.
was gone again.
well,
until
they just explained to
Yeah.
us this is where 3PO is. This is what he's
Yeah.
up to. He's obviously at HQ doing
Yeah.
stuff for them all the time.
And then-
That's all you need to know.
That's all you
We're gonna
need
go
to
back
know.
to
No,
the story.
Yeah.
he was.
Well, he was with Leia and that.
No,
but,
he was dimmed.
What?
No, that's R2. We're talking about 3PO.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, 3PO was back at HQ
Yeah.
just doing his thing. That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about. And so the last thing I want to touch on that vision is it seems to me that Kylo, I mean, especially looking through his fighting style and everything in the final battle, it seems like he's not quite all the way trained. Snoke even mentions that
Yeah,
he needs to finish his training.
And we see that in the
How is
his
it that
fighting
Luke
style.
couldn't take him during
I
that
know.
Jedi attack?
Well, again, he's family. He's already struck down his father. Kind of had to strike down his father. Can you do that to your nephew? I mean, that's really tough.
so inner conflict.
Yeah, I think
probably
that
stopped
that
him.
was really, and that's another reason why he ran, is because, how do you deal with this? This is someone you've been training. It's your nephew, and now he just slaughtered everyone.
Well, you
It
have
seemed
to.
like to me too in the vision that he was looking down at corpses with R2D2, so
Yeah.
maybe he didn't even arrive until
No,
afterwards.
no. You have to understand.
Or maybe, yeah.
Luke saw a man who was the most evil man in the galaxy
Yeah.
turn to light at
Yeah.
the very end. He is someone who looks at people and he sees hope.
Yeah.
He still sees
Well,
hope.
he is the
still
embodiment of
sees
hope.
light. And that is why he hasn't struck him down. Because even though, I mean, how many people did Darth Vader kill?
Well,
Hello? But he still saw light at the end.
Well, I mean, even if you
and he has that hope.
Let's look at the extended universe. Luke couldn't even go after Jason. They had to send Jaina to go train under Boba Fett to go after him because Luke could not do it. He physically said he couldn't do it, and Ben was like, "Why can't we do this? He's evil." And Luke he couldn't do it. He didn't have the heart for it, and I think that's
Right.
perfect. When you're saying he has hope,
Yeah.
he has that light that torch he is carrying,
Mm-hmm.
and to strike down a family member is just too much. I mean, he even going after Vader, he didn't have to do that.
I mean, ultimately, you're looking at the story, 30 years after Return of the Jedi. There's a lot
Yeah.
of character layering that happens in that time.
Yeah.
And we're not looking at Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. We're looking at Luke Skywalker from Force Awakens,
Yes.
who has experienced more stuff, who has gone through more trial,
Yeah.
who has built himself more up.
It's
as a
And we
true,
character.
don't
but-
know what has happened.
But
in
the
that period.
trial has made Han gentler. I have to assume that maybe it's done the same for Luke.
I think it did the exact opposite to Luke.
You
I think it
think?
made him
I
skeptical.
don't
I
know,
think it
that
made him
face
scarred.
at the end, I feel like was nothing
The
but
fact
compassion.
that he ran away and hid himself from
Well-
all of his friends and
I
family
disagree.
tells me that there is something going on with him.
We kind of got a hint because they mentioned that he was looking for the first Jedi temple,
Right.
They did say that.
and so yes, partially he kind of ran away, separated himself, but he had an entire. The First Order was hunting him down. He was trying to separate himself to protect them
Well, yeah,
in a way, but
he was
there
saving
is
himself.
something at this temple that he needed, and he went on his own. Yeah, it was. He could have done it better. He could have handled it better, but he was doing what he thought was best.
And that ties well into Return of the Jedi too,
Yeah.
when he's worried about Vader seeing him on the shuttle.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's a Jedi, they
Yeah.
can sense each other. So he was
Yeah.
like, "I shouldn't have come. I'm endangering
Yeah.
the mission." Maybe it's the same instance in this
Yeah, I
situation.
think he's probably feeling that a little bit again. He's like, I can't keep them around me. I'm endangering them. I need
Right.
to separate
Yeah,
myself.
that makes a lot of sense.
I
I like
think-
that theory a lot.
Yeah.
And I think he knew that he needed to be around, that something was coming.
Yeah.
And he kind of needed to save himself.
And who knows
To train
what's
Rey.
going to happen in the next movie from what he's done over these last 30 years or
Yeah.
who knows. And again, we don't know all the things that happened in that time period that could have influenced his decision. Maybe people close to him died, or there were close calls. We don't know.
So let's talk a little bit about a little more on the older cast.
Sure.
Princess Leia coming
Yes.
back as General Organa.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on her scenes?
She did awesome. I
Right.
felt like
For
there was
the
a
fact
lot of
that
heart in there.
Carrie Fisher, as old as she is, and has
Senile.
gone through all the problems she has.
You are
I mean,
stepping on some
she has.
I love her.
She has
mighty
She
thin
is
ice.
senile.
Yeah, I mean, she has bipolar. I mean, she has some other mental illnesses. She's not held that quiet.
Wait, are we talking about? You said Princess Leia.
Yes.
We're
Carrie
talking
Fisher.
about Carrie
Yeah,
Fisher. In
Carrie
general.
Fisher, yes.
Okay.
Even with all those struggles she has personally, she came in. She nailed this.
Oh,
character.
she did
Yeah.
amazing.
You cannot tell. Yeah, she's a little bit older. She embodied that character. Yeah, she's gone through a lot. You can tell that.
And she acted. She brought in the wisdom that she would have gotten
Yes.
over 30 years.
Yeah.
You could see it all over
The
her
character
face.
layering was very
Yeah,
apparent,
it was
and all of the old
beautiful.
cast, which was absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. And Leia definitely nailed it.
Yeah, she
Carrie
nailed
Fisher
it.
nailed it. The chemistry she had between Han was different, but the same at the same time. You know,
Well-
it was
Well, and it's the way it should have been.
it was
it
heartbreaking.
definitely-
It was a relationship that had spanned multiple decades. I mean, really, they've gone through heartaches and
Right.
and tough times and good times and all this stuff.
And their son turning to the dark
their
side.
Really
son
son,
falling to
yeah.
the dark side, and even with all that stuff going on, they still care about each other. You can see it.
Right.
You know, when the first time they see each other, I mean, it's not like, it's that whole scene. I love you.
I know.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be
too.
spoken. You see it.
Yeah.
So it was perfect.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into Han Solo.
Okay.
Harrison Ford returns to reclaim his title as Han Solo.
Yes.
And
cruel
I'll be
trick.
honest, like right after experiencing Indiana Jones
Yes.
and
Crystal Skull,
Skull
yeah.
and all that stuff, I saw Harrison Ford in that movie, not as Indiana Jones, but as fumbling, bumbling, old Harrison Ford. And it didn't ruin the character for me. I did not see him as Indiana Jones. He comes back into Star Wars.
Oh my gosh.
He is Han Solo.
Yeah.
Well,
He is Han
I love
Solo.
Crystal Skull because it had been so long. I love the fact that I love the fact that
No.
they played on the age.
No.
Not the storyline, but I love the fact they played with his age, where he missed the landings
This
and stuff
review
like
is
that. I like
over.
that. No, I'm just kidding. But compared,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones compared to him coming in as Han Solo, it's not even on the same charts.
It's not in day.
He came
You're talking
right
about
in.
layering.
Yeah,
Oh
I mean,
my
he came right in,
gosh.
and there was no question he was Han Solo. He was the mannerisms were the same. The way he was talking, the way he was
Well,
pointing.
JJ had the task of taking the last 30 years and explaining to us in very short periods of time
Yeah.
Right.
what he's been doing, why he's doing what he's doing, and the kind of character he's turned into. I mean, instantly, the very first scene that he walks in the door, Chewie, we're home, and you see that he's back into smuggling and all
I mean,
that
you
stuff.
see his face.
That's 30
He's
years of storytelling.
generally
no,
happy. Did you
he
see
was
that?
like a little boy that just.
Yeah.
It's like, my shit.
I know,
it's like,
he was- it
okay,
was
it's like,
amazing.
It's like, okay, you had your hot rod when you were a teenager, and you had to sell it when
Yeah.
you got married,
Mhm.
and then 30 years later,
back.
you go, your kids have grown up, they've left. You go out to buy the same hot rod to kind of rekindle that, and you find out that it's the same freaking
Yeah.
car.
You
I
see
mean,
every
yeah.
It was
memory you've
awesome.
ever had,
Yeah.
every cool time. Every,
mean-
And I mean,
like,
at first 5 minutes of screen time, I was like, done.
Sold,
I
yeah.
am sold. That
No.
is amazing.
Yeah.
And then it keeps progressing a little bit more after that. And you get to see his shenanigans that he's
yeah.
gotten caught into. Like he's lying to this one, crime group,
Then
and
he's
then he's
caught
like,
by the
"No,
other-
no, I wasn't borrowing money from those other guys. It's just you." Like,
It
oh,
was
tell them
perfect.
that.
Tell them, and then they show up.
and
it
it's
was
like
the perfect way to
Oh, it
reintroduce
was.
his character.
it's just like this
It was
is Han.
awesome.
This is what he's been up to, and now we're just kind of stuck in the
Really?
middle of
My
all
He's
his
only
got a
problems.
big
question is-
ship with big like.
He's been flying the galaxy with Chewbacca all these times, and he just now decides to fire the bowcaster? Seriously?
I thought that was awesome. I've always wondered that. I was like, he probably wants to get his hands on that bowcaster, and there he goes. He
the
loves
thing
it.
I did like is it seemed like the bowcaster was a lot stronger than we've seen in previous movies.
Right.
I mean, in previous movies, it's kind of been a wimpy shot, and this looked like, it was kicking people off the ground.
Oh
You
my
saw that
gosh,
scene where
it
he
was
shot the
so
stormtrooper.
cool.
Yeah.
He was flying into the wall, and it's like it's
But I
pretty
mean,
cool.
that's
It was
another thing I
good.
really loved about this movie. We had stormtroopers actually hitting things.
Yes,
They were
I-
competent.
that was
There were
shocking.
people
Their
dying.
training had
Okay,
to be
okay.
proved.
Let's segue this into the next
Sure.
character I want to talk about.
Alright.
John Boyega's character,
Yes.
Finn.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, he's a brand new character. We've never seen him before.
Yes.
Ultimately, we follow him for the first third of the movie, kind of his
Right.
perspective. What are your thoughts on number one, his performance and the character itself?
I loved his
It
performance.
was a great character.
We're doing spoilers in this, so I'm gonna say it
Go ahead.
was a little it was kind of sad that he wasn't like He wasn't a Jedi. He wasn't Force strong, but
We don't know that though.
well,
As
as
far
far
as
as
this
we
movie-
know,
As far as this movie,
it
yes.
was.
You know?
I was kind of, and that was the whole thing with the misleading trailers. Like I appreciate it from from the misdirection, but at the same time,
He's
it's
just
kind of a bummer.
He's just a stormtrooper fumbling around with a lightsaber trying to
Right.
make stuff work.
Well,
and
my only problem with John is I feel like if he had grown up, if he had been raised in the Empire, his personality would have been a little less fun. I feel like
Well,
his
They mentioned
innocence.
that.
Okay.
His innocence was so. He was just very naive and very fun and,
well,
and like a
this is-
child.
This is where I kind of picked up on something. So if you remember, there's a scene where he said his last conditioning, he was fine.
Right.
So it sounds like they have to check in and get reconditioned. So maybe they get their memories wiped or something's going on with all the stormtroopers in the First Order. Maybe he skipped one. Maybe he skipped two. And so we kind of seen, he starts realizing what they're really doing instead of being these mindless drones.
it's such a classic nod to George Lucas's first film, THX 1138,
Yeah.
in which people are sedated, and over time they go into the same routine of
That's
being
true.
brainwashed,
Yeah.
and this one guy breaks the system and
Yeah.
tries to get out. That is John Boyega's character in
Yeah.
my mind.
No, I totally
Go watch
agree.
THX 1138 and tell me that's not kind of influenced,
Well,
John Boyega.
not only that, it kind of it gives us a better explanation of why we can have so many stormtroopers and not question the Emperor and the orders.
I love the nod that he gives, though, to and this is probably the only reference he has to the prequels at all, is that he wants to implement another clone army. Snoke is thinking about just
Yeah.
bringing clones back.
Yeah, I caught that and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And there are several little nods to the previous movies. The trash compactor one that was beautifully done, and there's just so many other things that were
It was
in
a
there.
bit nostalgic at points.
They just like, okay, this is great. This really is the next story in a long line of the stories we've
Can
already
I-
seen.
and
I-
if A New Hope or Return of the Jedi had come out, let's say 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and we were getting this movie now, we wouldn't need all that stuff. But it's
Correct.
been 30
It
years
has.
since Return of the Jedi came out, so part of me was just like, there's a little bit too much nostalgia. I mean, there's a lot of throwbacks and homages.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little too much, but I was like, no, I think as an audience, we need a reminder
Oh, yeah,
that
we
we're
do.
back at home. We need a constant reminder that this is the Star Wars
Right.
that we grew up with, not
Yes.
the Star Wars of the prequels.
Can I bring up something that I don't think anybody else has talked about, even on the
Sure.
internet? The talk of a clone army, I think, is extremely smart, and I think if I was them, I would do it because in the very beginning, the reason why Finn's character kind of freaks out is because that one stormtrooper that he's with, obviously somebody he cares about and must care about him, dies.
Died, yeah.
And I feel like if there was that kind of personal relationship between two people that it literally sent him spiraling when that person died, it can't just be Finn. There has to be other stormtroopers that are going through, that are having doubts, that are having
They just don't have the courage to
personalities.
act on it.
Well,
Exactly. And I
that
think
or it's that conditioning where their memories are
As-
being wiped and
right.
You guys think
Yeah.
that because of this? Because it was one stormtrooper that this happened
Yeah.
with, and then the entire
Well,
event of the
but
film
that's
was
we only
the result.
followed one stormtrooper.
Yeah.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is that because of one stormtrooper, we got the events of Force Awakens.
Right.
Do you think that's enough for Snoke to be like, yeah, here come the
Yes,
clones?
absolutely.
I mean, it
because
could be, yeah.
obviously there was two. There wasn't just one. It wasn't just John. The person that was killed was super important to him. And they obviously had some sort of friendship or relationship. And so I feel like if he was that close with someone, maybe that person had doubts as well.
Well, it shows how close they are to each other too.
Yeah.
There's another stormtrooper in a different scene later where they have the lightsaber versus whatever that vibro staff was or something.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
They recognized him. They're
Right.
like traitor, and then he
Yeah.
goes
Right.
off in this big fight. It's just like it feels like they're more humanized to these stormtroopers.
Yes, which I loved.
Yeah.
Because you felt like before, almost like the stormtroopers were faceless
Cons.
clones.
Well, they
They were
really
cons.
were.
Right.
They really
And-
were.
and
We
now
never
we're getting
saw
to-
a stormtrooper without his helmet on.
Right.
And this time we got to see one off. And that's when
It's funny. It
You know,
makes
and
you
that's when
feel
we
more
got
when
to
they
see
get
him.
knocked off now.
Yeah.
Because you're like, there's a John under there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a
And
Finn in
also,
there.
there's a point where the scene where they capture Chewbacca, Han, and Finn
Mm-hmm.
on that green planet, that they reminded me so much of just like the Marines. Like, yeah, they're people, but
Right.
they are hardened.
Oh, yeah.
Like they have gone through so much, and they just take orders and act.
And they
Take
have
orders
to
and
be,
act.
yeah.
And it's not surprising that there's going to be a few people that don't agree with it, even in their line. So I do think that there's a huge possibility for a clone army later.
Well,
Well, I'm sure. Otherwise, why throw that in? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
no.
got to be something that
It's
comes
definitely an
from that.
Easter egg that we're
You
going to
know,
find out more about later,
and-
for sure.
Because I mean, it does show that one person doesn't check in and get their mind wiped or whatever.
Right.
Can it's a domino effect. It goes on, and I mean, just look at everything that Finn. I mean, and we know that was the Force work in the work.
Right.
Finn got brought to Rey, which then got to Han, and blah blah blah, because we got the Falcon. I mean, that was
It's destiny.
that scene right there when they're running and they're like, let's get to the quad ship or whatever it was
And
called.
then it blows
Yeah,
up.
and we're like, and we can get there. He's like, what about that piece of
The
junk?
junk.
And no one realizes what's happening, and that blows up, and they're like, the piece of junk.
Let's
And
go
then they
take it.
turn, and we see the Falcon.
Oh my gosh.
The audience
theater
was
went
Everyone is just freaking
Was
out at that
nuts.
point.
Yeah.
But that's
great
one.
moment.
I mean, that's one thing that I really
It's a
liked
great movie moment.
in this movie was the flight scenes. Back in the old movies,
Oh.
even the prequels, the flight was kind of clunky, or where especially in the original trilogy. I mean, it's like,
Super
I'm gonna grab
clunky.
this. It was really like, this was very smooth. And not only that, I mean, we saw the Falcon like dragging along dirt,
Like
and
bump across,
yeah,
like,
and
it was
bumping
awesome.
into things. And that's how I really envision things are happening. I mean,
Oh.
when you're playing video games, flying ships, I mean, you're bumping into things, you're hitting
Oh.
things.
I just have to
Especially
acknowledge.
me.
Yeah.
I just have to acknowledge. I mean, yes, there was the Falcon, there was Rey, there was Finn. That scene where he's like, the gun is jammed in forward position.
Oh
There's nothing
my
I can do.
gosh.
And he swings up. She
Yeah,
swings upside down
she
and
does-
points
yeah.
the bottom of the ship.
Yeah. And just
Whoa!
stalls the
I know.
engine, and she's like, fire! I mean, that was
Whoa!
beautiful.
There was not a quiet person in the theater. Like, it was
Yeah.
nuts.
It was going because that right there you had instantaneous chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Between
You
Rey and Finn.
loved
Yeah.
them.
Like it was just like they had this one job to do and they got together
Yeah.
and they did it, and they even after it happens they come into the cockpit or into the ship somewhere and they're just talking about like, did you know you could do that? I didn't know I could do that. You did a great job. I did a great job.
Yeah.
We should do this more.
Yeah.
It's just the chemistry was just so lovable and
Yes.
beautiful and relatable. Like it was perfect. It
Yeah.
was flawless. Segueing into Rey's character just
Yes.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about her.
Right.
I'll kind of start things off with what I thought was, again, probably the best character progression I've ever seen in any movie. I mean, we start off with this very fragile, lonely, isolated
Yes.
woman,
Yeah.
who's just scounging to make a living just to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then the instant that purpose is introduced into her life, she jumps on it. They show the temptation of getting the 60 rations or whatever
Oh,
for
yeah.
the droid. That moment was where I was like, this is her choice of making
It's
a
her turning
larger
point.
yeah, that's her turning point in the film. And from there on out, she has made the decision that
No,
this is
I
what she's
don't. I don't
doing.
agree with that. I think the whole time she's absolutely terrified, and that's why when Han talks to her and she's like about joining his crew, and she's like, "I need to get home." Even though
Yeah.
she knows she doesn't need to get home, she's still scared.
Oh,
She
what I'm-
still
what I'm
hasn't
referring
given
to is like
herself.
ultimately the character progression
Yeah.
leads to her making these difficult decisions and her making the courageous choice and the right choice, even though it's not the easy choice.
I mean, she could have easily got all that food and then walked away. That would have been the end
Yeah.
of her storyline in there. But she made that choice. No, this isn't my droid. She made the honest choice, which then, of course, influenced further on.
Right.
Because if she hadn't had the droid, Finn wouldn't have recognized her and just would have kept going on his
I
everyday
think
thing.
Finn would have recognized her. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so
Finn noticed her.
touch on that a little bit. The chemistry between Finn and Rey. Obviously, there is some kind of attraction going on.
Right.
I would
They
say
really
more
do.
Finn than
Outstanding.
Ray. I think Ray. It's kind of that weird. It's kind
I
of that
would
weird
say
relationship
that.
where she likes him as a friend. He's more interested in her. Now that could develop and
I don't
turn
know,
into
I
something
disagree.
else.
There was two
There was
scenes
some-
that I felt like she was
yeah.
Okay.
No, I
delivering
agree.
it back. One was when those squid things were attacking them, and one finally latches on to
Oh.
Finn, and she's just freaking like
Yeah, she
that
was
delivery of her line
so
told me
lost.
that she was like, this is the person that I care a lot about in a
Yeah.
weird way.
Okay.
And that was the first time.
Well,
The
and
second time,
that could be because of isolation, kind of that Florence Nightingale type.
yeah, that maybe she
thing,
has this
yeah.
first person to latch onto.
Yeah.
But that was just the first instance. Second
Okay.
instance for me was when they come back to the Star Killer
Mm-hmm.
to rescue her, and Chewbacca spills the beans that it was Finn's idea to come get
And then
you,
she gives
and
it
she
back to
just
you,
she
Todd.
has this huge
She
emotional,
melts.
Yeah.
and
She
she
melts.
embraces him, and they hug literally for like 15 seconds of screen
And Han
time
Until
feels
Han Solo
uncomfortable.
until
Yeah.
Han comes back
Yeah.
and says,
Yeah, I don't even remember what he said now.
Escape now, hug later.
Oh yeah, escape now, hug later. That's right.
So I think it's brilliant chemistry. My question is, what are we going to see with Finn later? Because at the very end, when she goes to look for Luke Skywalker, Finn's not present, and he's obviously injured.
He's injured. He's getting treated. Who knows? I mean, he's obviously got to be in the next one.
Yeah.
There's no way that you're going to throw in a character like him and walk away from that.
Well, what is his character then? Because obviously this film is mirrored with the original 1977 Star Wars.
I feel like Oscar is more of the Han Solo.
Obviously.
I feel like Finn. I think we have half of Han in Oscar, and I think we have the other half with Finn because we have this guy.
So Poe is our Han in the storyline.
He is the smart.
So I would have to say Finn is our Chewie.
Alec.
Finn's kind of the Chewie. I
can kind of see that. The bumbling sidekick that's kind of there. That's
Chewie.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
But
he's
it's
there
hard
to save
for me
the day
because
sometimes.
I understand his role and his purpose in this movie. I'm wondering what his role and purpose will be in the next film because I feel like maybe he's the Lando kind of guy, but like.
Well, see, so that kind of segues into something. So Amazon kind of did a goof, and whether it's true or not, the Finn toy came out with the title Finn, Lando Calrissian's son. On Amazon.
That's been my theory since the beginning. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so that came out in the toy, and a lot of people were wondering, was that on purpose? Was that to throw us off?
Well, because where is Lando? We need to find out, and we are going to find out.
Was that to throw us
off? That's a good theory.
Yeah.
But if that really is the case, I mean, because Bespin was taken over by the Empire, there is a possibility that Lando did have a wife and a kid, or maybe it was his hoochie mom on the side, and they had a kid together, and maybe he doesn't know. But when the Empire took over, the children were pulled aside and they went into that program.
Right.
So it could be that fact, and that could be another way the Force is kind of pulling this group together.
I feel like, so that's how he came to be, but I'm wondering what his role would be, because we've got the obvious leadership role in Rey, the Luke Skywalker, we've got the Han Solo and Poe. Well, he's the kind of rough and tough, I'll throw myself into danger kind of guy.
Skywalker. I mean,
Rey's who?
Even more of a leader than Luke is.
I mean like she's uptaking the leadership version of Luke Skywalker. Yeah. Like she's the leader, but she's also kind of the Luke Skywalker because she's coming into her powers.
Yeah, I mean she's definitely the main character.
So I'm wondering what does Finn have to offer in later adventures? That
I think we're going to be shocked.
I think we get to see that. I mean, let's look at Empire when Lando comes in. He's kind of a scumbag. Really, that we get to find out.
Right.
But then he kind of
totally redeems himself.
He redeems himself. He turns around. He then joins them. The Shadows of the Empire. He was really in there on that book. If you haven't read it, it's an awesome book. And then we see him in Jedi, and he's really heavily in with the rebels. And so we might see that where Finn was kind of that bumbling guy. He made some, he did some bad things as a stormtrooper. Right. He's trying to find a place. I mean, the whole time he was teeter-tottering. Do I stay with her? Do I run off and go to the Outer Rims? I mean, he had a choice. I mean, I think all the characters had a pivotal moment, and his was that moment.
I agree.
Where he could have gone to the Outer Rim, and
Yeah.
And
they
then
really
he didn't.
all did.
And then, and so now we could see maybe now that he's faced his demons. He fought Kylo Ren, for crying out loud, with a lightsaber that he wasn't trained with.
Yeah.
Even if he's not Force sensitive, he held his own against a freaking Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And did a pretty decent job. Yeah, he did lose, but he did a decent job.
Yeah.
So who knows? We could see some amazing stuff. Maybe he is Force sensitive, because wielding a lightsaber is not easy.
No, it's not. I see him more, additionally, as kind of a glue between two other characters.
Okay.
Rey obviously has feelings for Finn.
Yeah.
And Finn and Poe are just bros.
They're bros, yeah. That's what I'm saying. He's kind of the Chewie.
All right, so getting into one of the fan favorite characters, which again, as was Boba Fett, had very little screen time.
Yes.
Poe Dameron.
Was Boba Fett.
No, it wasn't Boba Fett. We'll get into Boba Fett later. Jared wants to talk about some Boba Fett.
Okay, so Poe.
Poe Dameron.
Poe.
Okay.
I'm going to let Jessica start us off with
Yes,
this, because this is definitely her favorite person in Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited when they announced that Oscar was going to be in the film, and I had no idea what his character would be, but within the first 30 seconds of meeting him, the first 10 seconds of meeting him, and his comment about, what, am I supposed to talk first? Are you going to talk first?
It was so Han Solo.
It was
It
so
really was.
hilarious. Like, it was just like,
He's so cocky.
Yes!
And confident.
it was
you know?
perfect. It was perfect. I absolutely love his character. The thing I can say is, I wish I had seen more, but it did.
I know we will
It
see
gave me
more.
a taste.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
we're gonna have
super
to.
excited to see what's going to happen in the next couple of movies.
Especially with Han gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll mention that
but
later.
We'll talk about that later. But no, I absolutely love his character. He has great chemistry with everyone. Everyone that he comes into contact
How
with.
can you not? I mean, the guy just is like this bubbling enthusiasm. I mean, especially when he meets Finn for the first time, and Finn's like giving him this big thing. He's like, "You just need a pilot, don't you?" Yeah, I need a pilot. You know, and it was
And
just
he's like, cool, okay,
all right, let's
whatever,
go for
let's
it.
go.
It's like, I don't care. You're getting me out of here. Let's go.
And he names Finn, which is so cool.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
just like,
Yes.
I'm FN 162 or something like that. And he's like, yeah, Finn. I'm going to call you Finn. Is that okay? Finn's like, yeah, Finn. I like that.
Yeah.
Finn. Ah! And he's having like this like awesome moment for himself.
Right,
Finn is
'cause it's a name.
during this dire situation of
Right.
trying to get
He's
away.
been a number all
So
his
like
life.
it's like Poe embodies like this person. Like the whole time he was on screen, I was just like, God, I want to have a beer with this guy. He seems so cool.
Yeah, he does.
No, I really, the analogy of him being the Han Solo of this group.
He's
is
like such a
perfect
friendlier
because he is-
version.
But he's a friendly version. He's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's because he hasn't been embittered by being a scoundrel and having to deal with what Han
Yeah,
Solo
I
did.
can't wait to find out his backstory because I mean
Yeah.
he is older than the rest of the new cast
Yes.
by
As
about
Harrison
10 years.
Ford was
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the original cast.
And like I said, he's so
Cool.
accepting.
He's a
like
pretty amazing pilot.
he
He
sees,
is.
you know what I mean?
Oh.
Like
Just-
you see him disappear for a while and you think he's dead and then all of a sudden he just shows up randomly in the film and you totally like you don't care what happened. You're just glad he's out.
Well,
like
what
you're
you
like glad
said,
he's
though,
alive.
yeah.
You're like,
Jess was asking me last night, like, what are a couple of your favorite scenes? And one of them for me, a huge scene for me, was the scene where he comes and rescues them from the First Order.
Yeah.
And you just see this amazing display of his piloting.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
goes through like 6 TIE fighters and like 20 stormtroopers in like, I don't know, 15 seconds of screen time. And Finn looks up, he's like, that's an amazing pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah! I was sitting there doing
doesn't
the
know
same thing.
that
Like,
he's still alive.
and then that's Poe.
And then it's Poe. His friend
Well,
Poe.
I mean, I
It's
was there
great.
with Finn. I was like, yeah!
Well, I mean, the funny thing is when they reconnect, he's like, "Yeah, I got ejected out. I woke up, didn't find you,
Yeah.
didn't find the ship.
Oh, well,
I just went
Is that my
on."
jacket? Oh, it looks good on you. Keep
Yeah.
it. You know, it's
he's
just like
so like he's just so like
He's
cool.
really laid
Like,
back
he's
and cool. Yeah. So
very cool character.
I
No,
love
really
him.
great character. Like I said, none of these characters you can't love. I mean, it's like instant. It's like, wow, I love this.
Somebody
So
said
beautiful.
somebody
Wrong
said
time
that
characters.
you know what's unique about this film is that the character progression of each individual character doesn't take away from the progression
Oh,
of
no.
any other character. They
No.
all rise together,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
great.
so rare in
Yeah.
cinema. You do not see that anymore.
Well, and I think we didn't need to see Poe so much on the screen because he was already that epic guy.
He was in our
Yeah.
hearts.
Yeah, he
the
was
whole
that pretty
time.
cool guy, and it was just the dialogue that was like, dude, that's like the high school quarterback that you want to be buddies
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
But he likes everybody.
But he likes everybody. He's not a
Yeah.
jerk. He's the cool guy. Like, dude, that jacket looks awesome on you. You keep it. You know.
Rock.
Yeah. And it was just like, I'm going on. I'm still cool.
and just the way he throws himself into danger all the time, just for other
Yeah.
people, like it's just it's the embodiment of whatever hero needs to
Yeah.
be.
I mean, when he's being tortured and he kind of looks at Kylo and is like, "Do your worst, screw you." You know, like that was awesome. That was so awesome because you know if Kylo Ren had been in that seat, he'd have wussed out.
Well, yeah, and that's another good thing. Yeah, they still got some of the information from him, but because he's not force trained.
Well, yeah, but they pulled it out
then,
of his head. He
even
didn't
then,
open
he
his mouth.
literally had to use the
Yes.
force to yank it out of him, and he was still just like staring him down, like, "Do your worst." And
Yeah.
I'm still gonna look at you. You're not gonna cow me. I mean, that was, and even after that, he still had some bumps and bruises. He jumped into a TIE fighter. Tried to take off, forgot the docking clamp or whatever that tow cable was.
That was so
And they're just
funny.
like, "Kunk, start opening fire,"
And he's like,
I think I got this.
No big deal, shoot him. I'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
And then the chemistry, I think, for Finn and Poe is built not mainly, but it ends like really quickly
Yeah.
through that scene of the escape. It's just like, okay, we're back to back. We're gonna have to work together. You have the guns, I
Yeah.
have the steering wheel. Let's make this work.
Yeah.
And instantly they're just like boom, boom.
What's
boom,
that whole
boom. Chemistry,
adversity?
chemistry.
Well,
Immediately bonds people.
And I thought it was so funny because it was so opposite than the originals. There was so much like they were so mean to each other, the three of them. Like I feel like
Luke and Han,
Well-
and like they were kind of like very sarcastic and
Well, they were, but you kind of had that
spiteful
love
themes.
triangle thing. So you had
Right.
both guys liking the same girl, and they were trying to up one another until, well, Luke finds out it's his sister, and then it's like,
Right.
oh, she's yours.
But these guys are
After
just
she
like
kissed her
straight up
twice.
love, 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 and if there's sarcasm, they're all in it together, kind
Well,
of thing. You know?
I mean,
And
think
it-
of that scene when Poe comes back. He's landing. He's getting
Yeah.
reacquainted with BB-8, and then Finn like notices him too, and they're like, "Buddy, what's up?" They just go
Yeah.
running into each
Yeah.
other's
Well,
arms,
see-
like, "Oh my god!" You know,
And
it's
I
adorable.
think that's why we have the dynamic. They're best they're now buds. They're
Yeah.
bonded. Where I think Luke and Han were more brothers.
Competition.
It was kind of that
brotherhood,
sibling
yeah.
rivalry over the same girl or the same thing, and they're always trying to one up each other.
Right.
Where these guys are just bros. I mean, they're we can,
Speaking of bros,
yeah.
McKay!
McKay showed up.
How are we gonna do this?
all right, so
McKay's here!
We
all right, so we got to let it guess is McKay.
4 now.
Okay, so since we've already been talking a lot, what was your
Late.
favorite scene in Star Wars? What
Oh
was your
no,
favorite scene?
there were so many.
The movie.
Wait, what?
What stood out to you?
The one we watched yesterday.
I guess I just heard you guys talking about it, but Poe ended up being way cooler than I thought he
Oh,
was
yeah.
gonna
There
be.
you go.
Like, just Jessica talked him up a lot, and I'm like, it's just because she's in love with him.
That's
But
true.
then I saw this movie, and I'm like, no, he actually really was this awesome character,
No, he was.
like the whole time, and he was a bad A pilot.
Yeah. I
So-
was shocked. Like, I mean, they made him seem like, oh, he's in it. You know, you see him getting tortured in the trailer and like he's in little parts, but like, holy crap.
That was-
I loved what they did with him.
Yeah, that was my only thing too with the trailer. Like, you saw a lot of stuff that, like, when they try
Oh,
to
they
make it look
totally
like he
misled
died
you.
in the first part.
I
you're
knew
like,
he didn't. I was
he's-
like, he
well, I know
didn't-
that's what I'm saying. In the trailer, there was stuff that I'm like, that hasn't happened
They
yet.
made an
So he's
action
got to come
figure.
back. So I feel like they were trying to play it off like, oh, maybe he died. It was like, he obviously didn't.
Okay,
We
that's
saw
a
that
great
part.
segue.
Well,
I want to touch on one
Okay.
pretty big thing that me and McKay noticed this morning watching it for the second time. There's a scene in the trailer where a young girl or a young boy or a kid is handing the Luke's lightsaber or Anakin's lightsaber, whatever you want to call it, to an older woman, maybe Leia Organa or General Organa or something like that. We didn't see that in the movie.
Right.
Do you think that might have been part of the flashback or something? What is the story? do
It
you
could
think,
be in
the
the
theory behind
flashback,
that?
or maybe it was left out because it's going to be part of the next movie.
It's possible.
But they just put that
I
in
mean,
the trailer
but-
because it's like, I
no,
want to
no,
know who
no.
that is. And then it
Let's be
didn't
honest,
happen
when
in
you
the
watch
movie.
trailers, how many times do you watch a trailer, you go see the movie, and you're
And
like,
it
oh,
wasn't
that
in it.
favorite part from the trailer wasn't in
Wasn't
it.
there. I have noticed that a
I
lot.
think they film extra stuff to just kind of pull you in. I think we'll see it in the special features.
Well,
You
So
know,
you
True,
think
there
that
could
it
be
was just
deleted
extra scenes
scene.
or something
I
like
think it's a
that? Yeah.
deleted scene.
You think it was a deleted scene, maybe something extra that they put in
Right.
for the trailer? You know, I think that there's a lot that was cut out of this movie because of the length already.
Right.
I think that they filmed a lot more than we saw because there's a lot of stuff to do
Well,
and to
and-
explain.
and it was mentioned that they cut a bunch of stuff out, and we're gonna get it all in the special features, which is that was
That's gonna
really
be awesome.
smart of them
Yeah,
to do
it's
that
like-
because Netflix,
we weren't gonna
we're
buy
gonna
the
rent it
Blu-ray
a
special edition
1,000
anyway,
times from
most of it.
Netflix.
Now I
Now
gotta
we're
buy
gonna
it
buy it.
twice.
Yeah. Now we're gonna buy it. So, you know, Netflix, download it,
I
have
was like,
on
that's gonna be
every
awkward,
single
like the
electronic
6 movie
device.
Case
I
and
mean, it's
then
bad
this
enough I
every
have it
single
on
one.
VHS, DVD, Blu-ray,
You won't
special
own this one on
edition.
VHS.
So
This will be the
answer
first
my
one
question
ever.
then: who was the little girl and who was the woman receiving the lightsaber?
So we don't know. I mean, we really don't know. It could be a flashback scene where maybe it is Rey's mom, and the little girl is Rey. It could be. I don't
Well-
know.
Then
or
how
maybe, like
I
your
really wish
theory
we could
is,
watch that
the
again.
Solos do have another child, but we just haven't
It is
met
possible, like what we were talking before.
Yeah.
So then, how in the crap did Maz Kanata get the lightsaber to begin
Yet. Okay,
with? Like,
so
Maybe that was the child.
you know, again,
little
so
bit of pain.
this is one thing I want to mention. The CG in this movie was pretty seamless.
Other
Yeah.
than Snoke, for me, yeah.
Well, Snoke was
Snoke
a
treaded the
hologram.
line.
He was
Yeah.
a hologram, so I think that they did it a little bit edgier than that.
Okay,
But
Ripley's,
Maz Kanata,
Ripley's
like,
believe it or
Maz
not, has
was
had better
really
holograms
solid.
for the last 40 years.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
you know,
But Maz
Maz
was
pretty
amazing.
solid.
Reminiscent of Yoda. the
How
character.
could
Yeah.
she have had it? Well, it's she's kind of the space hub, and who knows?
She
Maybe
could
some
have been
junkers
with
could
Yoda.
have come by and were trying to sell it off. And
Yoda
So the
is
last
amazing.
time we
She
saw
did.
it was falling down
Bespin.
the well of Bespin.
Yeah.
Who the hell picked that thing up?
And
Like,
I felt like she knew because he asked, and she's like, "That's a great question for another time." And
Yeah.
so she knew.
Well,
But-
see, I kind
and
of
now
feel
she
like
might be
Is she
dead.
the collector? I mean, if you looked around in
Yeah.
the room,
And
there was a
so-
lot of
There
them
was a
in
lot
there.
of random
yeah,
stuff.
and we did.
That's
we did,
gone now.
Well,
Like I
It's
said, it's all
exploded.
gone. Yeah.
Walking into
And
the
that's-
front door, there's a million flags from
Well,
all over the galaxy.
yeah.
Like, she's a
There's
hoarder.
There's a couple things. She's a hoarder. Is she a Jedi? I mean, she's got a lot of stuff. Maybe it's stuff from the Jedi.
She said that she wasn't a Jedi,
Okay.
but that she was well educated in the Force.
Okay, so maybe she's Force sensitive. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with her. We know she didn't die.
Wait,
I
we
mean-
know that?
Well, yeah.
She was kind of in the
Everything
building
she
when it
wrote-
exploded.
everyone
No,
was-
I see her as the kind of the guardian character. She was kind of Yoda in a way, and I think she's going to show up again.
Well, I hope so, because
I
that
hope
was one
so,
of the
'cause I
characters
love
that
her.
I wanted to know more about, but
Yeah.
I felt like that might be it. Everything
Yeah.
was just destroyed.
I
can't
don't think there was
imagine
too
that.
many little subtle comments that she made that kind of say that she's going to come back. Like that. That's a story for another time.
Yeah.
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 Oh, and I would love that, but
Yes.
unfortunately, we won't know that for 2
We
years.
won't know that for 2 years. I mean, there's just so much stuff to cover.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where the hell's Boba Fett? I was actually expecting to
Gone.
see him
Hopefully,
in this
still in
movie.
the Sarlacc
Gone.
pit.
I have
Do you think he's
Oscar,
died in that 30-year
so
period?
I'm good.
We
That's
don't
all I
know. I mean, we don't know. We do know Disney officially said he escaped the Sarlacc pit.
So he died some other way.
Probably by a different blind man with a stick.
But is he
There
part
are a
of?
lot of
Is
those
he
out
part
there.
of the next movie? Is he part of the?
But yeah,
the
he would be
ninth
just
movie?
as
Who
old.
knows?
Oh, do we decide he wasn't just as old because of his cloning stuff? That he wouldn't be that old as Han?
No,
and
so-
Leia?
Or
no,
the
so-
Sarlacc.
so the
it
Sarlacc-
takes
so part of
Yeah,
the
that's
Sarlacc
okay.
pit-
So to
yeah.
clear
Yeah.
the noise real quick, what was the theory that kept Boba
So
Fett?
so the Sarlacc pit and this is actually what was I can't remember the name of the book, but it was the book where Jaina actually goes in, actually kills Jason. So one of the Mandalorians explains to Jaina why Boba Fett is the way he is, and when he was in the Sarlacc pit and attached to the Sarlacc pit, it actually attaches itself to you through little suction cup things, and it's pumping its own digestive juices while it's
Keeping
pretty
you
much
alive.
digesting you. But at the same time, it's keeping your body, mind, and everything alive.
Oh my God,
and
we
you are
found
feeling,
the fountain of youth.
yeah,
Just have to jump in a Sarlacc
but at the
pit.
same
Might hurt
time,
a
you're
little bit.
feeling every ounce of pain possible. You're
has to
feeling
be-
He'll be
your-
digested over 1,000
There are
years.
things we can
feeling the
extract there, I feel
acid.
like.
destroying your body. At the same time, you're getting regenerated.
But it's
It's
good for
misery.
you.
So we need Sarlacc venom then? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
So there's a possibility that we have a younger Fett because of that, which would be kind of cool.
Well,
I don't know
Wouldn't be
what.
younger.
I
He
would
would just
say
be
be-
the
he's
No,
same
not younger,
age.
not younger, but he hasn't aged like the same way the original
yeah.
cast
Right.
has.
Okay.
It's also possible that through the cloning process and all that kind of stuff, since he was made to be normal,
Yeah.
that he would still just be like around Han's age, like he's just pretty old. He's just an old Boba Fett.
Well, I think he's older. I mean, but
He
I don't
was
know.
quite a bit older than
Yeah.
Han. Yeah.
Boba Fett's
Yeah.
not too much older than
not
Han.
too much. But
I would
he-
say
he-
between like 5 and 6
Yeah.
years older than Han.
I would say 10. I'm going to go
But
10.
I don't
on
know.
that one.
I mean, it would be interesting. It would be great to see him come back. To be honest, but is that part of the storyline? We don't know.
We do see, and I saw it a couple of times during the flashback, we do see Mandalorians. Mandalorians are for factual,
Yes.
they are back.
Yeah.
They don't have a big role, but factually, Mandalorians are back.
Yes.
I want to see more of them. Do you think we're going to see more of them?
Yes,
That would be awesome if
absolutely.
they did.
So,
Honestly,
yeah.
I think they're going to save it for the third film. I think that's going to be a finale.
They're
that's
like the
worth
badass
waiting for.
Ewoks, but like not Ewoks, Mandalorians. Like,
Well,
yeah,
no,
that'd be
I
really
mean,
cool.
honestly, think about it. I think it would be really cool. Like, we got the flags, we get a little hint in the second one, and then all of a sudden the big battle in the third one that we have
Yeah, maybe
the Mandalorians.
maybe
I feel like that's what we're building up to.
That's what I would love.
the
honestly.
resistance is
so
kind of
cool.
weak right now. Yeah, they've had a victory, but they're still kind of weak. Maybe that is the thing: is they go to Boba Fett. Maybe they've used that
Yeah,
storyline
and,
where
like,
he is the
sway.
Mandalore now,
That would
and
be
they're like,
so cool.
we need
That
you.
was my theory from the trailer when they walk up and you see the flag and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, I think Han's gonna have to go asking for help from Boba Fett. What that would make a really cool
Yeah,
story.
and it was
Yeah, but
disappointing
obviously it's not
that
gonna
that
happen.
didn't happen.
Yeah.
But we met a character that we absolutely loved while they were there.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that if we can get these, I enjoyed the little teaser of the flag and everything
Well, and
else.
maybe that's another way to bring her back is she's that bridge, that gap.
It's Mandalorian foreplay. I think we're gonna get it in the third movie.
Okay.
I do.
So we're gonna get
I have
teased
a
across two
question.
movies.
Yeah.
With this, most of the First Order was on that planet, correct? What's the planet's name? Solist, right?
Star
Starkiller.
Killer,
Yeah.
yeah.
Most of the First Order was on that planet.
That we know of.
That we know of. I mean, they could
Always
be.
drives
I feel
me
like
nuts.
it's the same.
How much of the first orders with Snoop?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
where is
That's what I'm
Snoop?
saying. Well,
A
yeah, that's what I
lot.
want
If
to know
he's
too.
the
But same with
powerhouse-
like
Snoke.
the New Republic.
Stop messing with
Snoke.
me up.
I want to say
Are you
Snooky.
snoking yet?
He's Snooky.
Snooky.
But yeah, and same with
Snoke.
like the New Republic. Was that whole wiped out as well?
Well, see, that's
during
the
this movie?
question. So we see a planet destroyed by the new Star Killer base,
And they're
Like
calling
4
it the
planets.
Republic,
and
right?
they're calling
The
it
New Republic.
The New
I think
Republic.
that's what they're calling
So,
it.
I mean, was that Coruscant? It didn't look like Coruscant because Coruscant doesn't have any
No.
lakes. So is the New Republic have a new capital? So I guess maybe they haven't taken back Coruscant. or
They haven't
something.
quite
I don't know.
explained it
Well,
yet, but it was
Coruscant we saw Coruscant watching the beam go across, right?
no.
No,
There was a planet, a city planet reminiscent of Coruscant that got hit and destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it wasn't Coruscant, I don't
Yeah.
think. The thing is, I feel like there's so much story between, Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens that we haven't seen. It sounds to me that the New Republic came into power,
Yeah.
and that the First Order came up to counter it, and then the First Order's kind of,
Well, I think-
overtaken
I
them
think-
a little
I
bit,
kinda think
and the
there's
Resistance is kind of
two
like an arm of
factions.
Yeah,
them.
it's like a separation
I think
of
there's
both
still
sides.
the old Empire, and then we have the New Republic, and they're still trying to gain control.
Yeah.
So
I feel like the Resistance was kind of because they mention it once in
Yeah.
the movie that they're kind of an arm of the Republic, and they're the Resistant fleet. Like I feel like they're
they're
an
resisting
arm of the
I think
military.
they're resisting the Imperial incursion.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can.
And so I feel like that event in the movie was much more significant than we understood
Yeah.
because we
Right.
didn't know much
Well,
about the New Republic,
And that kind of
probably
brings
wiped
in
them
the
out.
thing that you asked earlier about Leia. It's not Princess Leia now; it's General Leia. But I mean, I love that because she's technically not a princess anymore. Her planet's exploded.
Yeah.
There's no one for her to govern over. So, taking the mantle of general, it's still an authoritative
Right.
position
I
and
feel
a
like
title,
it makes her stronger.
but it makes her a stronger
Yeah.
character. And it's because you kind of hear princess, and I hear that word and I think, well, they're owned by Disney now. It's a Disney princess.
Right.
Now she's not the Disney princess.
Love
She
it.
is a
Get
general,
away.
and she's gonna
Yep.
kick butt.
And that's what maybe you guys already touched on that earlier with the Max von Shadow guy.
Cedo, yeah.
Cedo. He
His
said
name-
she'll always be royalty
Yeah.
to me.
Well, and I loved him being in the movie. It was a
Okay,
small part,
this
but
is
that
a
was
great segue.
beautiful.
Who the heck is, what is his name? Santeric? That's his name in the movie,
Yeah.
I guess. Who is he? What's
We
his
don't know.
significance? Why does he talk
Well,
to Poe?
and there
Like,
was
Well,
talk
he's
of
a
him
par-
being Ray's father.
too old.
No, I mean too old, but
Maybe grandfather.
yeah.
Okay, this is
No.
off the record. Everybody shut up. But technically, men can produce sperm and make
Yes.
babies until they're 90.
It just doesn't seem. It
out
doesn't
there.
seem
Okay.
He
likely.
could be the
but
Hugh
maybe.
Hefner of the universe.
Okay,
We don't
well,
know.
We know that
This
he's the
individual
head.
is important. We know
Yeah.
that from the fact that he has a portion of the map to get to Luke Skywalker. Luke wouldn't have left that with anyone,
Right.
and obviously he doesn't tell Leia. I mean, so there's some importance there. Who he is, we don't know. He could still show up in the next movie through flashbacks or other
Yeah,
things.
Well, we looked up a little fact about him. He's the head of something called the Church of the Force.
Okay.
That was
I
wiped
read-
out by the Empire because the Emperor didn't like the functionality of it because
Gotcha.
they sympathized both with the Sith and the Jedi.
Okay.
So he was the head of the Church of the Force at this time.
So he's force sensitive.
he's a lot like what's her name, Maz.
Yeah.
Who they have a huge appreciation and understanding of the
Right.
Force, but they don't have a side,
Gotcha.
particularly.
And I feel like
They're
they
the
hold a
gray
lot of
area.
history.
Yeah.
yeah.
They hold a lot of history of the Force, and I think that maybe people don't want to remember, have older knowledge,
Yeah.
and
But
so,
I feel like that's why they respect and they follow Luke Skywalker so closely because they see the Force as a living deity.
Yeah.
And I mean, Luke Skywalker's the only one that tried to implement, a new Jedi Academy to better spread and obtain the
well,
Force.
maybe Luke is a new leader of the church. I mean, no one understands the dark side and the light side better than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because
I
he
think-
he treaded it.
See, this is the great thing about the movie is, we've got some really cool stuff and got some really good answers. But at the same
More
time, we
questions.
have more questions now.
Mhm.
There's like,
Guys,
what's this? What's that? Where are we going with this?
I want to talk about Kylo Ren.
Okay,
Again?
so let's move to. Let's move to Kylo. So
Boo!
I know you're gonna
I
say.
know,
no.
we were
bummed
all
about it.
little
I was
disappointed.
so excited for him. I'm like, he's going to replace Darth Vader
Yeah,
for me.
everyone was
No.
super excited from
Yeah.
his look. what
He
we
looks
got
like
to
Revan.
saw.
He has the coolest costume.
We got to see the cool lightsaber with the cross.
Lightsaber's so cool. I'll
guard.
give him that stuff.
Everybody made
You
fun
know,
of the
that's about
lightsaber.
it.
But then we really got to see Kylo Ren, and the 4-year-old,
How old,
5-year-old temper
how old
tantrum.
is he really? Do we know?
He's probably 18.
No.
No?
In real life, he's like 30.
I know, but
Not
the
the actor.
actor,
I
it's a
mean,
character.
yeah, how old's
I feel
Kylo
like
Ren
he's-
or Ben.
He has to be older
Solo.
than Rey. He has
I'll
to
look
be.
this up, keep discussing,
So
I'll see
I-
if there's a
and
for sure
so,
answer.
and again, we kind of talked about that where we saw the temper tantrum and stuff like that. But the scene that I really loved with him is where Han is there and he is there, and they have that little homage back to Jedi, where you see red. His face is divided. You have the light, and you have the kind of the
Right.
dark red, and it's just there. And they're having that conversation, and then he makes the decision at kind of the same point that everything goes red, and it's just like it was well done.
Yeah.
And all the conversations that you had, you saw the temper tantrums, you saw him struggling. This was a character that was, we saw as evil, but at the same time he was struggling to be evil.
Well, and my thing is like when he first came on screen
Mm-hmm.
and we first saw him take the mask off and talk, I generally was disappointed.
Oh, no, seriously.
I generally was disappointed. And then he had his little tantrum. And I was like, he is totally unstable.
Yeah.
He is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, because when someone is like that, when someone is mentally that damaged,
You can't reason.
they're so
there
unpredictable. You have no idea what they're going to do. And I feel like with him, it's just chaos.
Well,
like there's no rhyme or rhythm. Everything is based on his emotions or his feelings or his pride, and that's terrifying.
Well, I think the reason everyone was so excited and liked him is because we saw a mask. It was
Well,
like,
yeah,
oh,
it
it's
was
another Vader. We're going to see this,
He's
and he's got
nothing
he's
like
got
Vader.
the, he's
No.
got the crazy voice. He's got the
He's
cool
a little like
lightsaber.
That's what he's
Anakin.
supposedly
Yeah.
supposed to be.
But then,
It's like, I
He's a
saw too
little
much
like
Vader,
Anakin.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, where?
Well,
but
and
then he takes the mask off, and we see a human side. We never saw Vader outside that mask. Till
no,
the
and I
end.
think he's a glory hound. I
Oh, he
think
is.
that's why
He
he
is.
takes his helmet off all the time. He
Yeah.
wants people to see his face. He
Yeah.
wants people to know it's me.
Yeah.
I'm the
It's
one
me.
doing
Yeah.
this. And I mean, honestly, like, I don't know. Like, he really scares the crap out of me.
However,
He was very intentional. The acting, as people will be like, oh, he wasn't a very good actor. No, it was
no, I think it was
very intentional.
I think it
Everything.
was great acting. He had a really tough part
Yeah.
to play this character that, like we said, is surrounded by these famous, powerful
Right.
people, and then to try to hold yourself to that high standard. Well, I mean,
He was a
he would
spoiled
have been
brat Hollywood
accepted no
kid.
matter
He
what
was.
he would have been.
Yeah.
If he would have just been the mechanic guy that fixed X-wings, Han and Leia still would have loved him like no other.
Yeah.
But he
He
had to
felt
be
the
the best
pressure. He
Jedi.
had- he
felt
did.
that
He
pressure.
And up to
He
the
cracked.
end, like Han tells him, "Was like, listen, we need you to come home. We miss you."
Yeah.
Like he had every opportunity to go
Well,
back,
and not only
he
that,
chose not.
yeah,
to.
he
Well,
did.
but
He
him
did.
going home would admit failure.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it
saying.
did.
It
know.
nods to his character and the reason why
Yeah.
he became who he
Well,
was.
and I want to get that scene was so powerful because walking out onto that bridge, Han Solo had to know there's only two options here.
Yeah.
One of those I'm not coming away from this. One I am, and I mean that's scary.
Yeah.
Even if it is your own kid, walking up there and facing him took I
Since we're kind of diving,
giant size.
Let's
diving
go.
into
Yeah.
this.
Let's segue over to that.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're diving into this scene, this is the one that hit me
This
the
is the
hardest,
giant spoiler.
and I'm sure it hit almost everyone
Yeah.
pretty freaking hard. Even if you're not the biggest Han Solo fan, it was massively, massively impacting. And I mean, for me, Han Solo has been around my entire life. He's been
yeah.
a huge character idol, and that scene was probably the most powerful out of all the Star Wars movies for me because it was just so. It was a lot, and it's hard for me to even make words to explain it. But I also feel like,
But it was
as
perfect.
selfish of a decision as it was probably to, adhere to Harrison Ford's request of not wanting to be any more Star Wars movies, I think they did it in a way where they sent him off with some dignity.
Well,
And it
not
was.
only that, this is kind of an argument that's always been out there. Is how many times has this group gone in and come out unscathed? Every time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing that was pitched back long ago when Vector Prime came out and Chewbacca died. We know that's been erased, but Chewbacca died and people were pissed. I mean, people were just like, "How could you kill Chewie?" Because he's your best friend. He's it's like your dog,
Right.
really. I think Han Solo was a better choice than killing Chewie, because we can all say, "Yeah, that sucks." And yes, it happens. He dies. It's heart-wrenching, and it's done in a beautiful way where he goes to his son. He's pleading for him to come back. And there's that moment, the light, and then it flips to dark, and it's like you hear that lightsaber ignite, and it's
The
over.
air was sucked out of the room.
Oh yeah, everyone was
Like,
just like,
It was
it was like it was like time stood still, even though the movie is going on, and then like reality hit when Chewbacca screams and then fires the bowcaster, and it's like, holy crap,
Right.
this just happened.
Well, I was kind of pissed about it because, for one, I was sitting next to him, and he literally, after
Yeah.
that, I mean, I've never seen anyone so upset in my life, and he literally zoned out the rest
Yeah.
of the film. All the cool stuff, the fight scene
Yeah.
between Kylo Ren and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff was kind of.
What was hard?
What was,
was-
going,
it
what,
was
was
really
going
so
on,
good.
what was going on in my brain was, I kept seeing the new stuff coming, as the last third of the film was
Yeah.
progressing. I
Right.
was just like, this is cool, but Han. This is awesome, but Han.
Right.
Rey and Kylo fighting, but Han. So I couldn't
Yeah.
focus on it. That's why I decided I need to go see it again
Yeah.
immediately. And, I mean, it
But
was much better the
it
second
really
time.
comes to that point is you can only escape fate for so long, and
Yeah.
I mean
Well-
Han Solo has been that guy that's been treading that line for so long.
The
And
reason why I came to accept that he died and that I'm not going to see any more Han Solo and stuff like that is the way that they took him out, and I knew it was going to happen.
Well, and a
yeah.
lot of people hated the way they took him out.
Well,
Oh, I think
I'm a
it's
huge
brilliant.
Han Solo fan.
Right.
Like I have the Han Solo costume, I have all this Han Solo stuff. He's my boy,
Yeah.
and for him to die was really hard for me. But at the same time, the way that they took him out, there was so much love
Yeah.
in that scene.
There
And
was.
What did you say last night?
I said last night that the thing that really separated, it being a bad death and a good death was the fact that for one moment in Han
Yeah.
Solo's life, he was 100% selfless.
yes,
Yeah.
for the first time.
Right before
Yeah.
he goes out, he is 100% selfless. He's doing it for his son.
Yep.
He's doing it for his wife.
Mhm.
Hell, he might even be doing it for the galaxy.
Like,
Who
he
knows?
literally
He's the last person on
went-
the list.
Yeah.
put himself on the line
Well, he did.
when
I
he
mean,
stepped onto the bridge.
he sat there and he's next to that pillar. He could have walked away easily.
Yeah. And
You know,
said, maybe another
they
day.
planted the charges, and he could have easily said, "Hey, I'm going to do this another day."
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he walked out. There was no escape. I mean,
And you
literally,
knew
there
the
wasn't.
second his foot hit that bridge, that
Yeah.
was it. He was gone.
Yeah, I mean-
and your whole time you're watching, you're going, no, 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 no,
No,
no, no, no.
you're gonna the
No.
solo lock's gonna kick
It
in. He's gonna
pissed me
escape.
off
Yeah.
because he did such an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, he brought so much more to the character than I've seen him bring
Oh, yeah.
before, because he had those layers of experience that
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about, and he just brought so much to the character. There was so much adorable chemistry between him and Rey, and like, he was generally, I've never seen him generally impressed by someone. He was generally impressed by Rey.
Oh, I love that part when they're in the cockpit. She's like, "Yeah, I just bypassed the
Yeah.
such and such."
He's just like-
compressor, and he's like,
What?
"Huh? I didn't think of that."
Yeah, like, it was
Yeah.
adorable, and I couldn't wait to see where their relationship would grow. And so,
Well, and then the mere fact that he
Why?
offered her a job, which is
Yeah.
not something. It's always been him and Chewie. It's how it's been. It's never been anyone else. And
Right.
he's like, and then he kind of backpedals. Well, yeah, if I was offering you, a
well, and they
job,
set
yeah.
you up when Han looks at her and says, "Chewie likes you."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh
Okay,
no,
all right. So
oh
speaking,
no."
speaking about Chewie, that was another scene that I told Jess last night that was one of my favorites, is when Chewie goes ham after Han dies.
Oh yeah,
Like-
just ape.
It
Like-
to me, like, I think that Chewbacca had excellent chemistry with everyone he came in contact with the whole film.
It was
But that
pretty
moment,
funny,
I think,
yeah.
was Chewbacca's glory moment.
Yeah.
Out of all of the movies, I think this is the moment where we get to see Chewbacca. We get to see the raw, undying
Yeah.
loyalty for his friend. And he has zero care for himself as he starts firing off lasers at like Kylo Ren,
Yeah.
Right.
6 different stormtroopers, and blasting everyone in oblivion. Like, it was so emotional for me to see that, because it's like seeing a dog that goes chasing after
Yeah.
a cougar, knowing it's gonna die,
Yeah.
but it's gonna do it anyway because you're its master. It's that kind of loyalty.
It was
between-
really cool, but at the same time, immediately afterwards, it was such a letdown. For me, with all the new characters, it was
Yeah.
really easy for me to recuperate from the death of Han. But as I looked over at you and the other Star Wars fans, I could tell there was not enough time. There wasn't enough time for
Well-
the viewers
to recover.
to mourn.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, okay, he died. Okay, now moving on to the next chapter.
Well,
Well, what's one
we
thing that we
needed
caught
more
today?
time.
Is it's like when they all get back, the only people that really seem to be like mourning Han are
Immediately, at least.
Rey and Leia.
well,
Right.
And Chewbacca walks right past Leia, and I'm like,
well,
I mean, Jerry were talking like, that's a little weird. Wouldn't he go over to console
Yeah.
Leia because he's
No,
been
It was
with
too-
Han?
it was
this
too
is
fast.
where-
Well,
this
the
is where I
first scene
think
that
it is.
Leia comes in, Chewbacca's the first person that's like, Leia! And comes in and hugs her.
Right,
Like, they have this
right,
chemistry.
right.
It was weird for me to see that he didn't do that to Leia when
Maybe
Han
he
died.
felt like it was her fault because she pushed him to bring him back.
That's a good theory.
I mean,
You know
there's
what I
that, but or maybe it's just they knew they needed space. They needed their own individual time alone.
Because then you do see Chewie just kind of mourning on his own.
Right, but
after
so did
that.
your audience.
Well, I mean, true.
Your
but
audience
very true.
needed
See, and
time.
they did, but at the same time, we're in a war, and you can't slow that down and
Well,
stop.
and I would have almost rather
Yeah.
ended on that time, that dwelling
Yeah.
time of
Yeah.
everyone thinking about Han's death and remembering him, than throwing us right back into the cockpit. We got Chewie, we got
Yeah.
Rey, let's go on
But
an adventure.
But at
Ultimately,
the same time-
and
I
it
have
was
to.
like,
I have to give
okay.
a word of advice to everybody. When you watch that scene, I'm sure that most, if not everybody, felt the same way I did, where you kind of zone out for a minute because you're trying to accept the fact that Han's dead.
yeah, just close down.
I would highly recommend seeing it a second time immediately
Yeah.
because you go in kind of knowing everything already. You're able to experience everything, fully. Because again, the first time I watched it, I was just the entire time distracted by the whole Han thing. The second time I saw it, it was just like I was fresh. I got to enjoy the fight. I got to enjoy the second trench run and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It was fantastic.
Oh my
so
gosh,
make sure you see that.
Rey.
Besides Darth Vader's
Kylo's
death,
fight.
I think Han Solo's death is probably the longest death we've seen. I mean, because
Yeah.
honestly, Obi-Wan, gone. Yoda, gone. I mean, it was, they were gone in an instant. He
Well,
didn't have the
He
Force.
was the only one that got to speak his piece.
Yeah, and he
Nobody
didn't
else
have
did.
the Force, and and I think that whole moment where we're seeing him on the lightsaber, and you're seeing him kind of like, kind of cringing up because he knows he's dead. I mean, and he's just still there. I think they prolonged it as long as
He
they could.
knew that he was dead.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
But it's still, the lightsaber igniting was still a shock to him. I mean, of course, it's going to be for any parent that happens to.
Man,
Still
and
had
that,
The
hope.
way he
that
said
last,
thank you, like, I don't know. Maybe he
He's
did
crazy.
know. I think he did
And
know.
he may have.
Well,
know,
that
but
last shot of him consoling his son's face,
Yeah.
like that, I was
he's
just
just
like,
pressing. It's just like
yeah.
it's a father just tenderly touching, saying, "I still love you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still
forgive
believe
you."
in
Pretty
you.
much wanted to stab Kylo Ren in the face after that.
I wanted
my
his
God.
head on a pike. I
Yeah.
was just like,
Well, I mean-
screw that guy.
I mean,
Wanted to
just
brighten.
I mean, when we
Right
left
in
the
the baby
theater,
movie.
and there's several other friends we have that are cosplayers, and they look at the guys that were dressed up as Kylo Ren, just like, so you're really happy about that costume now?
Well, and we have a good friend whose Kylo Ren costume was
Oh my
absolutely
gosh, that was an amazing costume.
Every detail.
Michael,
Yeah.
you watching?
Michael,
Yeah.
we love you, and your costume is still amazing.
Costume still looks cool.
Costume's amazing.
We just don't
but
like the
Kylo
character
Ren's a jerk.
No, he's not that we don't like the character.
I don't like
Oh,
the
We're
character
mad at him
anymore.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're in
so
a fight
Oh, yeah,
with
he can
Kylo
redeem
Ren.
himself.
all right.
Okay.
So I've got some light that might make Kylo Ren a bit better. I mean, what do you think's going to happen in his character progression through this film and the next?
It's gonna be a 2 more movie thing of him coming to the light. Honestly,
I don't know.
that's what's
I
gonna
don't know.
But I
We
think
have-
he'll go darker in the next one.
It's
then
definitely
light.
we're
Lighter,
definitely
yeah.
going to go darker.
Darth
There's-
Vader.
There's really 2 options. I mean, we have this
We
moment when he is fighting Rey. She has the lightsaber. She's fighting back. And we have that moment where he's like, I can train you. I can teach you the ways of the Force. Being that arrogant, and Rey snaps into her abilities, and she literally kicks his butt. I mean, the scene where she's forcing the lightsaber down.
And a
into the
lot of
snow
people thought that was
amazing.
a little too convenient, but I loved it.
Well, I think, we saw that she was using the Force. I think that's when she just fully embraced herself.
This all goes back to the very root of the entire film. The film is called Star Wars: The Force
Awakens.
And it literally
And
awoke
Yeah.
her.
It awokened in the most literal sense
Yeah.
in Rey. Like
Yeah.
you go from this scavenger to a full-fledged Force wielder. I think
Oh, yeah.
this is why I said before. I think she's going to be the most powerful Jedi the franchise have ever seen.
I hope so.
Well, I mean,
Because
especially if
she's
my
just
theory
scratching the
proves
surface.
true,
I love
whether
it.
she is Skywalker's daughter. I mean, she's Luke's daughter. Then of course she is. I mean, the scene where Kylo is trying to yank, Luke's and Anakin's lightsaber, and it's kind of wiggling, and then you see
Flies
it fly
past.
out, and we're like, oh my gosh, she pulled it, and then it flies past him and into her hand. I mean, she pulled stronger than he
Wait,
did.
you honestly thought it was going to go in his hand?
Hey, it kind of looked that
I
way.
knew immediately it was going to go
No,
past
I
him.
knew, I
Come
knew,
on!
I
Watching-
knew, but looking at that, just saying, I mean, he was pulling at the same time, and she
Right.
was able to pull it even
Yeah,
harder.
but-
That shows how much stronger she is.
Well, and like a lot of people think that this is all like some kind of feminist mumbo jumbo, but honestly, like
is.
I said earlier, no. Like I said earlier,
Then let a guy say it.
anybody can relate to it. Anybody,
Oh, no,
a guy,
everyone.
girl, everyone can relate.
I
to
think
Rey.
that's why, like, even me when I walked out, I was like, Rey is probably up there in my top 3 favorite Star Wars characters
Oh,
of
yeah.
all
He is
time.
not one to
Yeah.
say that
No,
about
I
female
have
characters.
to agree with that.
But
And-
he totally
but
was on
But
board.
at the same time,
Sexist.
I think if we would have gone with another male lead character, it would have been more difficult because we kind of went back with that with the prequels with Anakin, and they wanted to kind of give a new fresh start. And I think going with a female lead was a good
I mean,
choice.
my God, everybody was like, "This is
And
a
she
repeat
did an
of
amazing job.
A New Hope." If it had been a dude, it would have been the movie exactly.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even though, like, I
mean, Drew down
don't
to the trench
embrace,
runs.
you know, powerful female characters that much.
No,
because,
he doesn't. He really
You
doesn't.
know, I don't feel like it
Other
fits
than
stories. Yeah, I don't feel like it fits stories most of the time cinematically. But in this case, it didn't matter. At all.
Yeah, I know.
No, she's a great role model for
She was-
kids. I mean, really.
I really
Freaking
think
cool.
that it was the right decision to
It
make
was.
her, you know, the main character because she completely she stole the show. She was a
Oh, she did.
superstar in
she,
this movie.
yeah, she literally
I'm
stole
sorry.
the show.
I was sold
And I
when
was-
she was using an Imperial Walker as her house. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
from the
was
very beginning,
hilarious.
it was hard not to love her, even when she was just, you know, grabbing crap
Yeah.
from a Star Destroyer
Yeah.
to get food. Like, it was just
Yeah.
like, life is hard, Ray.
Yeah.
Life is hard. You know, you keep trying to do what you do, and then she makes the decision not to sell BB-8,
Yeah.
and it's just like, wow, yeah, you're a good person. So progressively, she becomes more and more and more and more likable until she has the power of the Force, which we all want and adore. And she symbolizes this perfect person that we all want to be, and making the difficult decisions that she does. And
So this-
we go on and on about
All
that.
right, everybody shut up.
this
Let's go
kinda-
watch it
this
again right
kinda-
now.
This is my theory.
So
So with R2.
showing at 10:30.
Our
I know,
YouTube.
so R2
I wanted to talk about this.
is
Yes.
pretty much gone through the movie. We see him, he's powered
We hear
down.
about him.
It's
Yeah.
like R2 is my favorite droid. I love him, and he's powered down. And finally, at the very beginning, and he like
Anymore.
powers up. I
Why?
really think
For
he
no-
powers.
yeah, for what
I don't.
reason?
I don't think it's no reason. He felt Rey,
The Force Awakens.
which
Did
again,
R2D2. He's the
Luke's
Dex
daughter, and not only that, he could. I know this sounds weird, but he could sense that she had come into her power, so it was time for him
Do you
to
think
Well,
it's
he
escape
has
possible?
to Luke.
served the
He has served the Skywalker family
bloodline,
since the beginning.
You know,
But I feel like droids have no effect in the Force at all. Do you think it's
I
possible that
completely
R2D2?
disagree.
I think
No. It's been mentioned several times. That
I know it
droids
has
have
been.
no-
I know
I'm
it has
sorry,
been
but
mentioned,
I
but I
don't-
think R2 is
As an
different.
exception.
I mean, look
He
at
is
all
different.
the things that
That's
R2
what I'm saying.
has
Yeah.
done with Anakin, with Luke. He's got to have
There's
some
no way.
sort of connection or sense. I mean, there's.
he knows them better than
From
anyone.
scene one,
Like-
okay, he's on way back in Phantom Menace. All these astromech droids are going up the elevator on top, and they're getting blasted away. But R2, why not? I mean, there's got to be some sort of connection.
Well,
Yeah,
and
let's
when
start
you
the movie
watch
right then and
him
there.
and Anakin
Yeah.
flying, even in the prequels, when you watch him and Luke, I mean, it's like literally he can think it, and it happens.
Yeah.
Like they are connected in the
There's
brain.
no denying that there
They
is
have
a
a
very
major
powerful
connection.
chemistry between
and
R2
because
and
R2 is around these strong Force users, something must
Now I
have
will
worked
say
out.
this: Rey is absolutely nothing like any Skywalker we've
True,
ever seen before.
true. But
She's
again,
completely
If she's a
different.
Skywalker, we still
If-
have to
if
like-
she
she
is.
is.
But
But
yeah,
at the
that's
same
true.
time, she's grown up
You tell-
without the influence of the family, unlike Ben.
Right, and I want to hear what you remember
So what
last
is that?
night on the way home, and you were talking about how you would be disappointed if Rey was a Skywalker. Could you explain that?
Because again, so people are trying to get away from the midichlorian theory, which okay, whatever,
Yeah.
that's fine. And if she's not a Skywalker, then I feel like that's great. Okay, that proves that the Force can be used with anyone.
With anyone.
But if she
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
another Skywalker, then it's like, guys, come on, it's got to be something blood related because it's only in the Skywalker
Yeah,
right.
family
But
the
the-
entire time.
See, and then the problem is again, they've said the movies are the Skywalker family.
Well, and I feel
line.
like the only thing I liked about that point that you had
So,
was
I
that the joys of feeling like anybody could have the Force. It could be anyone. It could
Yeah.
be poor. It could be rich. It could be what.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
but then again,
matter.
This movie
You
was
could
made
this
the
have the
midichlorian
Force.
thing that came out doesn't exist.
You know, and they fixed that with this with Maz. You know, she re-explains what the Force is,
Yeah.
not using the midichlorians,
Yeah.
and she says, "I'm not a Jedi, but I understand and can
Yeah.
kind of utilize the Force for myself."
Yeah.
So they do kind of bring that, you know, wonder back of
But the
if you
Force is
really
this
concentrate
thing
and
around
try,
us,
you
yeah.
could have the Force.
But again, until we find out what Rey's family is.
True.
All we know is that the Skywalkers are the ones with
Yeah.
the Force.
And I think there's no denying that Finn has some level of Force.
That's what I
usage
thought
as
was
well.
cool with this one too. Because I
And-
mean, before the only
Have you
Finn
seen
ever saw was
Oscar?
And
Han.
Poe.
Well, see, that's kind of the
Like
thing.
Poe, I feel like
This is-
has the Force.
This is something that the Force influences everything.
What if
You
the
know,
Force Awakens
the-
and everybody?
the solo luck, you know, the solo
Chaos.
luck that we've always known, you know, and that's what's always been called, is the Force. You know, in some of the books, that's what Luke sits down with Han at one point and says, "You realize you are accessing and tapping into the Force,
Right.
You know, this luck you call it is the Force." And that's kind of where
We can use
where
some of that
Han
Force.
kind of starts
How the
accepting
Force
what Luke
works.
is doing and
Right.
that. And so, to one point or another, or to an extent, everyone is tapping into the Force. You know, Poe's amazing piloting skills he is unconsciously tapping into the Force. And
Right.
we're all doing
No, I
Undeniably,
totally
yeah.
believe that Poe could have the Force.
Yeah.
And then
You know,
again,
I know
I
he
guess
does.
that was in Knights of the Old Republic, but remind me again, who can use lightsabers? Because I thought originally you had to be trained with
Well,
something
so,
in
okay,
order to use
so
a
that
lightsaber.
that's the thing is, you know, lightsabers, they're a weapon. It's a sword. I mean, anyone can use that.
Right.
But to do it effectively, and you know, Force users generally are the ones that use it, because you know you're fighting with that. You can cut off an arm or something like that. Force users don't have that. So I think Abrams was kind of bringing that in. It's still a sword. It's still a weapon that anyone can pick up and fight with.
Which I
but
thought was
a
really-
trained Jedi is more effective with it.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool because in all of the originals, like Six Stones, like the
Yeah.
only person non-Jedi to use it was Han Solo, and he just used it to open up a tauntaun.
Yeah.
That was it. And so it's like, all right, well, you know, but then Finn used
That
it
took
a
some
lot
force,
in this
McKay.
movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, but
to-
you know, kind of going into the Clone Wars TV series, we saw a Mandalorian that had stolen a black lightsaber, you know, and he used it pretty well.
Yeah, we gotta see that.
I know.
Oh, you haven't seen those
Well,
episodes?
Spoiler for
we
you
started the
guys.
Clone Wars. I love Rebels, so he was like,
Yeah,
you
so-
have to
Oh,
see
that's right.
Clone
I
Wars.
still haven't seen
Yeah,
Rebels.
there is a
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have.
I'm
it.
watching
Oh
them.
my
I'm watching season 2. But yeah, there is.
So
There's
good.
eventually they get to a point where there is a Mandalorian that stole a black bladed lightsaber from the Jedi library or archives.
And I think that's so cool. I loved watching Finn use it because that made me feel like awesome. It's like you don't need to be a Jedi to have a lightsaber. You can use
Well,
it
and
just
not only that,
He held his
You
own
can-
for a
he
while.
did hold his
You
own
can use
for
it
a
clumsily
while.
for a
but,
minute.
And that may be that because of his feelings for Rey and for what was going on, he tapped into the Force at that moment.
Can I just-
and could kind of manipulate.
Can I
it.
Are they
just
trying
say-
to do a love story with that? Did you guys talk
Yeah,
about
obviously.
that?
Yeah.
they
Can
are.
I just say
I
that?
miss so much, dude.
Yeah, I know. We already talked about.
I know. I feel
Can
bad.
I just
sorry.
say though,
No.
not Pope. Finn held his own.
He did.
Okay. Against Kylo Ren,
Yeah.
who technically,
Sith
I mean, we're not
apprentice?
talking,
What are we talking about?
kind
What
of a
is he?
Sith.
Dark
He-
Jedi?
Anyway,
he would be an
Apprentice?
apprentice.
If he had had like, I don't know, a week more of training, he probably could have kicked his
Even
butt.
2 days, probably.
Yeah, like
I have to assume too. I mean, he was a stormtrooper, and obviously stormtroopers are trained hand to
Yeah,
hand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
In combat, he knows how to fight
Well,
with
that
vibro.
stormtrooper
Not
fought
really
him with the
Sith.
one.
Well, they-
what was that? Did we even find out
It's
what
like
that
a
was
vibro
called?
staff or
Yeah,
something.
we don't know what that is.
Electro
Oh, it's
But,
awesome.
Awesome.
but all
Yeah.
stormtroopers know how to fight with vibro swords, so he does have some sword training.
right, but
Ray
so
doesn't.
does a million other people
but
that
I
are.
think, but see,
But
this is-
he actually, I think, was better than that. I think he was good if he had
He
had
was.
training. Oh, really
but
quick.
again, at the same time, he was fighting someone that was so mentally unstable that his
Yes, can
that
we
he could
talk
not
about the clumsiness
okay.
of Kylo Ren's fighting as opposed to the strength that he has in the mental tapping in of the Force?
So you're saying that he has
Okay.
a really good grip on the Force, but his lightsaber arts.
Yeah.
aren't
That's easy to
physically,
explain.
do you
That's-
understand that?
Yeah, I mean
like,
that's
did
easy
you
to
see
explain
that?
because I mean yeah, I did see that, but you know, Jedi's, you know, if more reading books and stuff like that, even in Knights of the Republic, they kind of explain it that Jedi's have different abilities, and you know, some are better
Oh my
with mental
gosh.
stuff.
Yeah,
Some are better
the
with
laser shooting
Yeah.
that he stopped forever. Like that
Yeah.
was the coolest
you
thing
know,
I've ever
some
seen.
are able to
That was cool,
manipulate.
but then I feel like
things around them.
Ray overpowered even his Force strength. At the
That's why I
by the
think
end of it.
I,
She's just
I,
the most powerful.
She's
yeah,
gonna
I
be
think,
so
I think
powerful.
as far as Kylo, I think as far as manipulating the mind and
It's like the last Airbender,
the-
and Ray is the
No,
Avatar.
Let's
and
not talk
the
about
world around
that
him, I
movie.
think he is incredibly strong in that. But as far
Ray's
as his
got less
lightsaber skills, he's not very strong in that.
No.
And it could be because one, lack of training.
What were they called?
could
The
be-
Sentinels?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think.
The
I
Guardians? The
think
Sentinels?
obviously,
Yeah,
he
the
was.
ones that had the yellow lightsabers were
Yeah.
the ones that it was basically what Bastille was.
Do you
Yeah.
think that he was training with Luke? Mentally, he was stronger than Luke. but he decided because he was mentally stronger than Luke, he didn't have to continue his lightsaber training.
That could be, but maybe he wasn't even stronger than Luke. It was just he.
I think
That's what
mentally
drives me
he's
nuts, too, is we
he's the
skip-
strongest I've seen.
You keep
For
saying mentally, you mean
years.
like through
Why
the
not?
Force?
yeah, like his ability
To use the Force.
Yeah.
use the Force. I mean, but you also use the Force when you use a lightsaber. But
Yeah.
for that part of it, he's
Well,
not as
What
strong.
Dan said hit it on the
Yeah.
head. There's different Force users with different abilities, and I think Kylo Ren would be more of a Sentinel
Yeah.
character. Like he's
He
got
can-
major control over the Force, but not so much his form.
Yeah.
Which is totally cool.
And-
Well,
Ba-
that's
ba-
why I'm saying
battle meditation
mentally
and all
and
that
physically,
stuff, yeah.
because physically with the Force, he's completely and totally uncoordinated
And that could
With
be,
a lightsaber.
and that's also probably why he dons.
in general
The mask.
with anything.
It's
I mean,
so
walking
intimidating
even.
that it
Did you
throws
see?
you off. And that's probably why he has the cross guard too, because he knows he can't fight as well. And I mean, we saw him use it where he pushed that into Finn's shoulder.
I love how hard they try to defend the cross saber
Yeah.
by showing you all the ways it
I
will
know.
work.
Hey, a sword has been a cross for like thousands
did
of
work. It
years.
did
There you
work.
go.
It
But I'm
did
saying
work, though.
that he could. That's the reason he has the mask, to overcompensate. He has the cross guard to overcompensate for his lack in skill with the saber. I mean, there's so many possibilities.
He's
So-
he's
He
overcompensating.
is. He's overcompensating.
We need to touch on one or two more things
Okay,
before we wrap
let's
up.
hurry up.
Okay.
Do you guys feel like this was a kind of a reboot of Star Wars: A New Hope?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously. I mean,
Well,
that's
Yes
you-
and no.
yes.
I mean, I think it's a if you were to come in brand new, this is an amazing movie to jump in on.
See, I don't think
And
the
then-
Star Killer assault was as well executed as a Death Star assault.
True, but at the same time, they weren't going for that, because if you would have gone for that, then it would have been too much like a new.
See, that's what I was
Well, no, no,
thinking.
no.
I feel like
For
they
me,
did,
it
but
was
that's
more
why
like-
they separate. They're like, it's not a Death Star.
Well,
Well,
this is the
no.
Death
I feel
Star.
like
This is that.
the
Yeah.
whole
They even
point-
called themselves out on it.
Yeah.
Star Trek Red Matter. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go out with that.
The whole
I don't
point,
watch
I
Star
think,
Trek,
of
so I
The
don't
Force
know.
Awakens was the progression of Kylo Ray and the new cast and all
Yes.
that kind of. I think the Star Killer thing was just kind of a thing in the background, so the other people had something to do.
Yes.
And I don't know if they should.
Compensating.
Yes, they're overcompensating.
I just think they should have maybe
Ginormously
done
different.
something else. You know.
Well, again,
Make a square.
so
Does it
let-
have to be a circle?
let's kind of
The
roll
The
back.
Death
blow up a
Cube.
planet.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't it
we
just
can kinda
like
roll
kill
back.
certain people?
You know, I want to say the name right, Snoke.
yes, Snoke.
So,
Snooky.
so Snoke,
Where did he come from?
where did
Is
he
he a
come
Sith?
from? How long was he manipulating things? Was he manipulating Palpatine? I mean, we don't know all these things.
Is he a
Is he
version,
Darth
Plagueis? That'd
be kinda
version of
crazy.
the
You know,
Emperor?
was he
I don't know.
Pelagus?
Are we
that was
going to
able
know
to
that? Though?
transfer
That's what I'm
himself
afraid
into
of.
another
is
body?
they just like being like, well, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This new stuff we're continuing.
Yeah,
It's like,
you know,
but what about the 30 years
the Star
ago?
Killer base is like the Death Star, but better. And where did this thing get
Yeah,
built?
it's like, how'd that get built?
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
no one watched
okay,
this?
okay. So let me say this: I don't have a problem with the Star Killer.
No, I
I think
mean,
it's
it's
I think
cool.
it's pretty cool.
Red
My problem
matter.
is we had very little screen time
Yes.
of it. I feel like it's like, hey, here's Star Killer, big planet can destroy
Mm-hmm.
5 planets at the same time, but the rebels have kind of killed something like this before,
Yeah.
so it's
I'm
going to
s-
be gone by the end of the
I'm
movie.
still a
Of
little
course.
I feel like they should have maybe killed
hazy
it like
on
maybe a movie or
planets.
two later.
Yeah, but you can't
Base.
leave something like that that can blow up your
Robots.
planet every day.
Yeah.
I think they should have given it limitations. Like
Yeah.
you can't like charge in 30 minutes from the sun. Like I think they should say like, okay, we have
It
like
was
a year before we
hours.
have enough.
Let's
Yeah.
be
you know-
clear, it was hours.
It
It was
was
not
hours.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
No, well, they said they're charging the weapons to be ready in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
but
it took hours.
I
'cause
think
they'd already
that,
started.
I think they
Daylight
could have
going.
done it differently, where we could have had the Star Killer as a looming threat for a little while
Yeah.
longer. But that being said, I don't think it hurts
Well,
the movie at all.
I did think they did give it some limitations. It had to drain an entire star
Yeah.
before it
Yep.
was recharged, and that star was dead.
Yeah.
So they have to now move to another galaxy.
Yeah, they could have just killed the star and it would have died eventually.
Yeah, they could have just killed the star, but of course
Kill it
people could have flown
slowly.
off elsewhere. But you had to have the big giant thing for them to overcome. You had to see the big explosion, because
But
that's just
it's
what
the
it
third
is.
time now.
True,
That's my
but that's
problem.
okay.
with it.
So
We
that
need
was
something
kind of
else.
maybe that was the hey, this is the little nod to the trilogy. Now you're going to see something
Well, I
completely
think
different moving
that's
forward.
the problem. It wasn't. I
Wasn't the main
understand.
focus.
I understand that it was going to be like nostalgic, and they were trying to bring in familiarity. But it was. I mean, to be honest, it was a little too much A New Hope-y.
Okay.
But I was okay with it
Yeah.
because we got
Same.
new characters
Yeah.
doing
Same.
it.
And that's what I was saying earlier when I was talking to Jared about is I feel like J.J. Abrams might have been limited when he was making it because he's like, listen, like if I don't make what the fans want, like this is just going to be
Yeah, but
ripped apart.
he's one of those
so if he
people.
makes it
He's
so
the
much
fan.
like the original trilogy, then he's like, I can't go wrong. And so it's like, all right, you didn't go wrong, I guess, but it's like,
But-
we've
Yeah, I
seen that
guess it's
honestly-
true. The creator of Star Wars gets totally like assaulted for his
Yeah.
prequels.
I mean, this movie
It's a lot of
exceeded my
pressure.
expectations. I mean,
By
going,
far.
Absolutely.
I mean, and it was
Absolutely.
It was
Don't let the whole Star Killer thing scare you
No, it
away at
definitely
all.
didn't.
Like it doesn't hurt the movie. It's
I mean,
just something to be discussed.
If I was to look at the whole movie, my biggest disappointment in the movie was Captain Phasma.
oh my god.
I don't see what all the
I
hype
think I
and
counted
everything
again today,
about.
like 4 scenes, I believe she's in
Yeah.
total.
And then she gets thrown in the
not
garbage.
even
I
is
was-
really a badass in
I
any
was-
of
She
them.
Generally-
wasn't anything. I mean, you see this giant woman in this silver
Sweet costume.
co-
Sorry to anyone who bought the
stormtrooper.
toy.
If you watch Game
Yeah.
of Thrones, you were disappointed.
Yeah.
This
And,
woman
you
is
know, I've
total
seen her in Game
badass.
of Thrones. I've seen how she's
What's her
fought
name again?
people.
Gwendolyn Christie? right?
Gwendolyn
Yep.
Christie, and you see nothing.
Well,
it's like you're
before we
supposed-
get too
did anyone
horribly
give you
upset.
permission to take your helmet off? I mean, it's like what the crap?
She didn't shoot one person, I don't
No,
think.
she didn't kill
No,
anyone.
but
She's
Remember
like that guy from
but guys,
Office Space.
guys,
Like, I'm gonna
guys,
need you to put your
we were
helmet back on.
promised. We were promised that in this next film, she is going to be
Okay.
completely and totally amazing.
How did she live?
That
she got
gives
thrown
me
into
hope.
a garbage
If
In
chute.
the
Captain-
planet that exploded.
If Captain Phasma can get thrown in a garbage chute and survive a star implosion,
No.
Yes.
It
Boba
was
Fett can
talked
survive
about.
a Sarlacc
We don't
pit.
know if she got thrown
So
in.
she escaped
no.
with them not...
Maybe
but-
they just
okay.
chuckled about
So-
throwing
so-
her into the
well,
garbage
Who
chute.
told, wait, when
Okay,
did
so
you
couple
hear that
things.
she would be in
Okay,
this
hold
next
up,
movie?
everyone, hold up,
Okay.
Dan.
Kathleen Kennedy, that's her name, right?
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy.
She said
Yeah.
in her own words, I watched
She's in the next
it,
movie.
that she is in the movie and she is a total badass.
Okay, so it's really easy. Okay, she could have had another communicator on her.
Why would they
She gets
make
thrown
all
in
that
there,
merchandise
she
if
calls
she's
out.
gonna be badass?
Because we
Yeah.
already bought it all.
Yeah.
Joke's on us.
They open up
Maybe
the door. She escapes.
Maybe she's the subject of the new clone army.
Well, I
It's a
hear she's going to
army
be
of clones of
pretty
Phasma.
Okay.
nasty.
Well, I guess
she's
that's
gonna
cool
be
that she's back,
nasty.
and hopefully she'll redeem herself. But I was like,
Totally
whatever they
redeem
did with her, she was on the planet that just exploded. So I,
I mean,
assumed she
I
was gone.
No.
if she, I mean, I would love to see more with this
And,
character.
oh my god, like she's this huge like character of power and like she has got
Literally
so much
Built up to
huge.
be
and
this
she
good.
Not
throws the
compensating.
entire First Order under the
And
bus.
she's
just
like, all right, I'll take down the shield. I
yeah,
don't
shields
want
are
to be shot.
down.
Yeah,
And then she's
I
like,
will just-
stormtroopers
I
will
mean,
be here
I
to
will
take you
Thank you, sir.
down.
Have
deal
a
with
good
this
day.
later.
I mean, literally,
They
that would
never
have been like,
showed up.
take one for the
Ever.
team,
Yeah.
Phasma.
yeah. I mean, this
Oh
would
my
have literally
God.
been like,
Maybe she's a chess player and not checkers, you know?
I don't know.
She's
I
don't know.
my
Ugh.
it literally would have felt like if we would have gone through New Hope, we would have seen this amazing Darth Vader, seen all these cool things he did. He walks up to Obi-Wan and goes, "Dude, man, you're Obi-Wan. Okay, here's my lightsaber. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you took off my arms and my legs, but I give
She
up."
actually at least made me appreciate Boba Fett more. I was like, she was the Boba Fett of this movie. She didn't do anything, but people were like, I want that. And then they see it, and, well, some people still like it.
I
but
already bought the
it's
costume.
like,
The man sitting in front of the
it's like she
Mandalorian.
did nothing.
Well, you know what? You know what was
What?
exciting? We were expecting her to be the strong female in this film.
It was Ray.
And it was Rey.
That's what
I mean,
and
that
do-
is the one
That was a
counterbalance.
cool surprise.
So, and you know, now that we know Rey is a strong character, now I think maybe
Oh, the
she
strongest.
Phasma can now rise up, and now we can see
she
some
can
cool stuff.
bloom.
All right. So we got to move on. We're
Okay.
almost out of time. I want to hear some theories of what might happen in episodes 8 and 9. Have you guys made any thought of it? My kind of to get things going. My question is, what do you think the new threat's going to be? Starkiller was a really high bar to set at for the very
Yeah.
first movie. Where do you think they're going with that?
Wherever.
Well, we know
That's-
What's his fate?
Been my problem with it. It's just like there's always been. It's like, well, that ultimate power weapon that will destroy planets. Like we got to get away from that. But it's like, well, what is that going to be that's cooler than an ultimate weapon that
Well, okay.
destroys planets?
Wherever
So what-
Son
what-
is.
what do we
Wherever
know?
Son is.
We
that's
know
what I think is a new
we
threat.
know that Kylo Ren is going back to Snoke
Yes,
to get
Snoke.
completed as training as a Sith Lord or whatever. You know,
So
in the
there's
Force.
two possibilities from theories. Again, I'm pulling from the expanded universe. One, that Snoke has some sort of connection to the Sith Emperor.
Alright.
You know that Revan lost to. Maybe he is the Emperor. I don't know, because the Sith Emperor has a vast empire. He's got resources unlimited. That could be a huge threat to the Republic coming in. Two, Snoke has a connection to the Yuzong Vong. and they come in. And that would be a really cool two possibilities. You know, Kylo Ren goes back, or Ben, whatever we want to call him, the guy that sucks, comes out, goes back. Now that he's fully embraced the dark side, he has made that choice. We've seen it. He kills his father. Now he can complete his training because there isn't that battle. And, you know, and we know that Snoke knew that. And he even mentions that you have to face this.
I like it.
You know, it was kind of like Vader, you know, or Luke had to face Vader to decide his fate.
Well, it was important for him to get rid of all of his weaknesses.
Yeah.
His father was his weakness.
It was.
Theory. I want one theory out of everybody.
Okay.
Could be anything.
Luke will say a line in the next movie. Because he
I
did in this
really
one.
think we're
My
gonna see
theory-
I made it to
Jedi
Tashi
stuff.
My
Station.
theory is that
Did he
Luke
pick up the panic
will be
word?
training Rey.
Luke will be training Rey.
His
I
daughter.
think that she'll be MIA not MIA, but I think she'll be on the island with him for probably 50 to 60% of the movie. And I think we're going to spend a lot of time with Finn and Poe in the next movie. They're going to be together, and they're going to be kind of taking on the universe together while Rey gets her training. And I think that Kylo Ren is going to get worse in the second movie, and then he's going to get better. I also think we're going to get, like I said, we're going to get teasers of Mandalorians for the next movie, and then we're going to get a full-blown joining of Mandalorians for the final epic battle in the third film.
And that would kind of lead on with the Yuzong Vong, because the Mandalorians were brought in on that. I don't know. I kind of can see that we would see some training with Luke. But again, there's kind of always these reoccurring themes
Also, I
in
think
Star
Luke
Wars.
is going to die. Anyway.
We always see these reoccurring themes in
Leia
Star
does in
Wars.
this one.
So
Luke.
if she's there training with Luke, she's going to see a vision, probably of Finn, and she's going to run off.
Just like in Empire.
Yeah.
Maybe for once someone will make a good
And then
decision.
we come back for the third movie and Luke dies, just like Yoda.
Okay.
Have we set a timeline? Is it saying how many years is going to be between
We don't
7
know.
and
We
8?
have
don't
no
know.
idea of anything.
Great.
We don't
It could
know
be.
of
It could
That
be.
could be like another 10 years. And
Wouldn't
that
that be
always drives me
perfect
I know.
if
nuts.
we had like 3 to 5 years and then all of a sudden Rey and Finn see each
I don't-
other
I
Yeah, it's
again
like
for the
Rey
first
could
time.
already be trained as a Jedi, and they'll be.
I don't
off
think
the
it's going to
island,
be
and
too
that'll-
long. I honestly don't think it's going to be too long,
Well-
because she's really strong now.
Well, but I guess the First Order has to regroup. I
Yeah.
mean, they had a huge loss,
Yes.
and we're going to need time. There's going to be time enough for Rey to train while they're regrouping. I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
We're going to
Okay.
see the training of her while the First Order is totally regrouping themselves.
Fair enough.
This one, I feel like, again, like with Empire Strikes Back, this one they'll get to play with the dark side characters more, and they'll get to use them as the stronger power, as the
Yeah.
greater thing, and they're gonna.
This is Act 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
This will be Act 2.
And so, and I don't know what it is. That's what I was talking with Jared about it earlier, just with like the, get away from the one power like mass destruction thing. It's like, and Jared was like, I want more Sith or more Mandalorians. It's like, or even like if they had like a Starforge thing where it's like this unlimited army of just constant things that they can send at people. I don't know. I want, and sadly enough, I don't know, it might be weird, but it's like, I want more, like, not just some weapon that's killing people. Like, I want them to go out and just take over more systems, like, with them, with, like, just having control over everything.
So you want ground game?
Yeah,
is
I was
what you
like,
want.
yeah. I want.
Well,
I
and
don't-
another thing I just kind of came to mind is Snoke mentions that Kylo founded the Knights of Ren. Maybe we'll actually see
The
That would
Knights
be
of
those
Ren.
knights.
awesome.
Yeah, and maybe the Knights of Ren is a
That-
huge
Maybe one of them
contingent.
is Rey's parents.
That leads into what my theory is for the upcoming movies, at least what I would like to see. Again, The Force Awakens is a building step for the next two movies,
Yes.
right? So the Force Awakens in itself suggests that ultimately the Force has reinserted itself into the storytelling.
Yeah.
I, like McKay was saying, think that Sith or Dark Jedi or whatever are going to re-emerge in very large numbers as the main threat of the film.
That's possible.
And I think that would be a very cool way to go about it, because all of a sudden you don't have one concentrated area of this is what's going to kill the galaxy. Now you've got Sith everywhere.
Well,
How do you
Well,
stop
I
that?
don't know about that because
Especially with Luke not having integrated, he had tried once to reestablish the Jedi Academy. That's the only thing that could stop it. He failed. He doesn't want to do
Yeah.
it again. Who can stop it?
Well,
know?
and see, and that's where my theory of the Emperor comes into play.
Yeah,
The Sith Emperor,
exactly.
because he has all those Sith available to him. And where we've had this tip, again, expanded universe, but Pelagius and Sidious did that ritual that tipped everything into the dark side, and that's why they were able to accomplish everything. The light side was clouded. I think the Force Awakening is that tipping back to where it's a balance, and she's come. because there's really at this point, because Luke's taken himself out of the equation. There's two. There's a dark and a light now, and now that there's two, we kind of have that too. We have a master and an apprentice, and a master and apprentice now. So we have the balance, and now all crap gets to happen.
Well, my problem with the theory a little bit is that if there are going to be like this massive amount of Sith that come rising up, it's kind of disappointing because honestly, you could throw a rock and find someone that's more dedicated to the Force than Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
out
I
of
mean,
everyone, all
what-
of these
well,
what if you
Sith
get-
rising,
what if you get
Kylo
new-
Ren was the
what if
best
you-
of the best.
What if you get new Dark Jedi that are even more powerful and threatening than Kylo Ren? Because I think it's way possible.
Dark Jedi, I will
Well,
accept.
but at the same time, Kylo is
Because
not
they never. The reason I say Dark Jedi is because they never say Sith in the,
No, I
in the
understand.
original
Yeah.
trilogy, and I think that's more believable than like we have a bunch of Sith. It's
Well,
like no, we
and-
have a bunch of Force users
and they
that
never
are
even
sensitive
they never
that are
even
now
said
under our
they never
control.
said Sith. They said the Jedi and the dark side.
yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
But
say
at the
that.
same time, now that Kylo has embraced his darkness, he's now going to be trained. We may see a stronger, more solid villain now.
That's what I think. I really think Kylo's going to be a force to be reckoned
Yeah.
with in
Oh,
the
We,
next
it-
movie.
we may
so
not.
he is
yeah,
such
the,
a
the temper
baby.
tantrums will probably go away, and he's going to be a more solid.
Again, that's what depending on how
we
much
don't
time
know.
passed. If he
Yeah.
went and spent and it's 10 years that he was with Snoke and now he's back, it could totally be a different
Yeah,
Kylo
no, it
Ren.
could be. It could be. It could be. We
Yeah.
could see something completely different, or maybe he is still unstable, and that's kind of the way they defeat him is through that instability. We don't know.
Yeah.
But the only way I can honestly see this ending really is by the end of these movies, we see the original characters from their trilogy leaving. So
Yeah,
not
ultimately.
they're
Well,
yeah. I mean, they've got to
I
either
was
die or
so
they
good.
just
Fate,
leave.
yeah. No, I mean, I was so good with the new characters that I'm
No,
kind of okay with
It
that.
will,
I
it
could
will
be
be
fine.
hard, just like with Han. It will be hard, but I think ultimately it's for the best.
Well, like
yeah.
I said to you, at least you got to say goodbye.
Yeah.
At least you got to see them one more time.
I would rather
you know?
I would rather have the Han Solo that I saw like just coming back and really owning the character
Oh, yeah.
and then
He
dying than not seeing him
owned
at all.
it. Yeah.
I don't know. I think he went out the best way ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he died a hero.
And
He
it was-
went
it took
for the
me-
love of his son. I mean, again, that
Yeah.
whole touch where he's like, it's like I forgive you, I still love you,
Right.
Yeah.
and
It-
then
It took me like 24 straight hours of soul pondering to accept that.
Yeah.
Like
He
I
was-
really freaking did.
Oh yeah,
pretty
no,
bummed.
it's tough. It's
He was
it's
really
a tough blow. I mean,
But
everyone wanted
I
to be Han
appreciate
Solo.
the
Han
hell out of
Solo's,
it now.
Has been our bosom companion. Everyone wants to fly in the Millennium Falcon next to Han Solo.
But Han Solo,
McCage or Chewie. I
Han
know.
Solo still lives on in his
Oh,
own
he does.
way. Like you got the Millennium Falcon, which is his symbol.
Yeah, it's,
You've got
I think
Chewbacca
what was
living on.
most
like-
disappointing is that he lives on, but then you think about his legacy and his son being such a whiny piece of crap was kind of disappointing.
I still think that.
But we
Han
see
planted
that
a
in the
seed.
books. I mean, we do see that in the books.
With-
The Anakin died, so now there was this Jaina and Jason was the Sith Lord, and
yeah,
we
but
still
was
had
Jason
that.
a whiny bitch? Sorry, I know.
Yeah,
we'll
he
edit
kind of
that out,
was.
but okay.
Yeah, he kind of was. So it's a perfect pair.
They're Skywalker.
Yeah.
I just had to ask that question. I know it's going to be edited out, but I just
really,
wanted
I
to know.
mean, really, the whole
Really? So we can say bitch and it'll be in it?
No,
just throw R2's voices over there.
son of a.
But he still has this amazing thing. I mean, we all remember him charging down the hallway, and then like
realizing all the
other way,
stormtroopers
running
running.
back, And there's we have great memories with this character. We've been
Right.
there the whole ride, and to see him get like shot down by some random dude, when the TIE fighters and the X-wings are fighting, if he would have died there, that would have sucked horribly. We were like, what the crap?
That's
We would
true.
have all felt gypped. With this, as much as it sucks,
Like he
we
said
can
with the selflessness
yeah,
of the first time.
we can just say, wow, as much as it sucked, this was the best way this character could have left.
Yeah.
And I'm so much happier that they chose him over Chewbacca. I mean, because Chewbacca, we can accept, and even the character can move on. Where Flip, I mean, Han Solo as a character went into a huge depression. His family was torn apart and ruined because of that. I think it was so much better with his death.
It was pretty hard. That
It was
he
hard.
died
It was
horribly
hard.
depressed. That was kind of sad.
But anyway,
All right.
on that cheerful note,
Cheerful note.
there's
Force
a lot.
Awakens is awesome.
It's
Yeah.
it's
It's
amazing.
really good.
Flock to the cinema. Make sure you catch it. It's absolutely the best movie of the year. It's going to break every record out there.
Well, I mean, it made $57 million just last night.
Yeah, so it's broken records.
I
It will
think it
continue
said
to
it
break
broke
records.
100 million by now. With
Oh,
the
yeah.
24
Holy
hours
crap.
I'm pretty
mark.
sure it
I
has.
think
Yeah.
it said it
Well, I
there.
mean, it sold 6.5 billion tickets worldwide when the tickets went on sale in advance. I mean, and that's just
Yeah.
on top of that.
Wow.
It's going to leave its mark in history for sure, and it's well deserved. It's such an
Unfortunately,
amazing
James
film.
Cameron will have
Um,
to weep.
we-
It's probably
It will
gonna
be
sur-
hard.
It's going to
It'll
surpass
be hard
Avatar.
Avatar was that
but
great?
let it
We have
sit.
discussed-
Highest-grossing film.
We have discussed many theories of what we think is going to happen in episodes 8 and 9. If you guys have any theories of your own, please leave them in the comment section. We would love to
Yes.
read them and go over them and discuss them.
Awesome type.
And,
fights.
Ultimately, we want to be the first people to predict something that might be correct because we were all freaking wrong this with Force
Hey,
Awakens.
I
no.
No,
said
Jess
it
didn't
was
get
Luke.
anything. I want to be on record
Hey.
saying
I
he
mean,
didn't
it was
get
Hey.
anything.
Luke's
Yeah.
son.
Hey.
I
He
mean,
was
not
the
Luke.
most topsy-turvy
I
theory
almost
person
wanted
in this
to-
Hey,
group.
I still called that was Finn in the
The
snow.
black guy was Finn. Good for you.
No, that Ray was crying over. You know, we were kind
I
of
know.
half correct.
You said
on-
it was Chewy. You
I thought it was
horrible
Chewie.
person.
We-
No,
I-
but I did see it was. I
we
did
had some
see
good. We had.
this kid.
I would say we had some good theories. We had several correct. We had several that were incorrect. But again, going in because of their marketing strategy, we had no clue. And
Yeah.
the fact that we were as close as we were on some things, that's awesome. The fact that we weren't on other, some of the things that turned out, I think turned out a lot better.
Well, and they
Bottom
totally
line-
screwed us in the trailer.
They
They
did, they
did,
misdirected
they did.
us like crazy.
Well, I
Bottom
thought
line,
J.J. Abrams
bottom
did that on
line, it
purpose all
is
the time
super
anyway.
fun to talk Star Wars. It is super fun to talk about what you experienced, what you
Yes.
were feeling, what you think's going to happen. Please share that with us as we share it with you. It'd be
Yeah.
an awesome, awesome experience that we could all share together as
We
Star
would
Wars
love
fans.
to hear your theories. We want to know
And
too.
if you did not weep or have a moment of pure silence because of Han's death, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
That
cried
was Star
twice.
Wars.
I was
When
more
we saw it again,
concerned
that
about his
I teared
feelings.
up again. I'm like, I didn't know this was about to happen.
Yeah,
It's still just
I
so
didn't
sad.
cry. I was good, man. I was just.
No, he was
I was
a baby.
manly.
I
You
cried. Yeah, I was
cried
like, I
every-
cried.
You were crying on the inside because you shut
I was
down.
bawling.
I kind of
Tears
acted
came
like
out.
I wasn't with him. He cried so much.
She does that a lot, actually. So
Yeah.
she's pretty good smooth.
All right.
Let us know your theories,
Yes.
especially let us know your questions. If there's something that we haven't covered, please let us know. We would love to answer it. And I don't know, until then, check out www.dungeoncrawlers.com. Catch us on our
Radio.
DungeonCrawlersRadio.com.
Yep.
Catch us every Thursday at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. You can hear us talk more nonsense about The Force Awakens and then every other nerd.
Which we,
Right.
there may be
subject
more
and-
shows.
And exciting news. We may be moving to more than one show a week.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching this, what was it, like hour and a half, 2 hour
I have
Force
no clue.
Awakens special.
No.
If you
The
made it
better
to
half
the
We're going to
end,
edit
I
it
was
down.
here.
That may not be the time.
if you made it to the end, we commend you.
Just simply, may the force be with you.
May the Force be
May
with
the
you.
force be with you.